Most people, to the untrained eye, are going to sit here and say that this owner starved her dogs.
We're going to head up to that dog hall right now. So we'll go out, we'll assess the situation.
I mean, look at that. These dogs look like garbage. I mean, that's just not... Did you see there's bags of food there?
She was very upset about losing all of her cats. She called me up a few times in tears.
I need my photos. I need to be able to paint this picture for the judge so that he sees what I see.
Welcome to The Works. In today's episode, we're taken to the skies with Hillsborough County Mosquito Control to find out how they combat the spread of disease and the rising mosquito population.
So when it comes to mosquitoes, how exactly are we combating them in the sky?
Nobody complains about larvae, they complain about mosquitoes, and specifically adult mosquitoes, female mosquitoes, the ones that bite you, right? But it's a lot easier to control adult mosquitoes by controlling the larvae. What we do is we use a larvicide product that attacks the larvae in the swamps and the mangrove areas along the coast here. We stunt their growth so they never grow up and become adult mosquitoes.
In Hillsborough County, your tap water is more than just convenient. It's safe, trusted, and affordable. Every drop is monitored 24 hours a day and tested regularly to meet strict state and federal standards, so you can trust what's coming out of your tap. Skip the plastic water bottles and go with tap. That way, you're choosing sustainability and savings. Hillsborough County Water Resources is proud to deliver quality on tap. For helpful tips and for more information, visit hcfl.gov/qualityontap.
Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners special meeting for consideration and action on the development and funding agreement, guarantee, and team non-relocation agreement between Hillsborough County, the City of Tampa, the raised entities regarding the Hillsborough College Dale Mabry Campus Ballpark project. At this time, I will pass things over to the administrator to begin introducing today's item.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. And I want to thank you for being here today for this special meeting, for the time, attention, and thoughtful consideration you have given to this project. This is an important moment for Hillsborough County, and I know the decision before you today reflects the significance of the opportunity and the responsibility that comes with it. I am grateful for the trust this board placed in me to lead the negotiations with the Rays and our partners and to bring these agreements back to you for consideration. It has been an incredible opportunity to be part of a project of this magnitude and to have a seat at the table as we think about what this could mean for the future of our county. This has been a long process. It has been difficult at times, it has been challenging, and there have certainly been moments when we have had to work through complicated issues and find our way to solutions. To be able to work on a project of this magnitude has been a privilege. And I want to take a moment to recognize the many people who have helped us get to this point. First, I want to thank Julia Mandel and Sam Hamilton of our County Attorney's Office. Julia and her team have been extraordinary throughout this process. They have worked through countless legal and contractual issues, challenged provisions, protected the county's interests, and helped us navigate an extraordinary, complicated transaction. I am grateful for their partnership. I also want to specifically recognize Greg Horwedel and Tom Fessler. They have put an incredible amount of time and effort into this process and have helped us work through the many operational, financial, and policy issues that come with a project of this size and complexity. We have also had the benefit of financial and legal consultants who have provided important expertise and advice throughout the negotiations. Their work has helped us understand the details, evaluate the risks, and approach this from every possible angle. This has truly been a partnership. The City of Tampa has been an important partner throughout this process, and I want to acknowledge the city's collaboration and commitment to working together on an opportunity that has significance for our entire community. The state of Florida has also played a vital role, providing land, funding, and critical transportation investments that have helped make this opportunity possible. And Eric Hart and our partners at the Tampa Sports Authority have been an important part of the process as well. We have appreciated their partnership and expertise, and we have worked through the many issues associated with the ballpark and the broader project. And of course, I want to thank all of you, the board. You have been engaged throughout this process. You have asked tough questions, challenged us, provided guidance, and shared your perspectives. Those conversations have been important, and they have helped make the agreements before you stronger today. I also want to thank the Rays organization and their team for the opportunity to work together. We appreciate the time, effort, and collaboration that went into getting us to this point and the opportunity to work toward bringing the Rays to Hillsborough County. Getting to this point has required collaboration, persistence, and a willingness to work through difficult issues together. No agreement of this size and complexity is perfect, and this one is no exception. The county did not get everything we wanted, and I know the Rays did not get everything they wanted either. That is the nature of a negotiation of this magnitude. But I believe what we have accomplished is a structure that balances the interests of the county, our taxpayers, and the Rays, while creating strong incentives for the Rays to build a ballpark development that we can all be proud of, and that can be an important part of the future of this community. As we turn to the agreements before you today, I think it is important to recognize that there is still work ahead of us. There are a number of documents before you today, and there are additional documents and actions that will come later. There are also several conditions that must be satisfied before the county provides any funding. Those protections and conditions are an important part of the agreements, and Julia will walk through those with you in detail. She will explain what is before you today, what comes later in the process, and the conditions and protections that are in place to protect the county and our taxpayers. Throughout these negotiations, our objectives have been clear: to pursue an agreement that creates an extraordinary opportunity for our community while making sure that we are responsible stewards of the public resources with which we have been entrusted. I am proud of the work of our team, the work we have done to this point, and I'm grateful to all of you and our partners for the opportunity to be part of it. With that, I'll turn it over to Greg to provide an overview and key provisions, and then to Tom to go over financial details. Thank you.
Next man up.
Greg Horwedel, who is lost in an elevator somewhere, apparently.
All right, well, the show goes on. Good morning, Tom.
So this morning, we wanted to run through just a short presentation with you. Back in, I believe it was May, you approved a memorandum of understanding, a non-binding memorandum of understanding. Then you asked us to come back and negotiate with the Rays and then come back for our final consideration. So that's what we've done. Again, we just kind of wanted to run through some information you have probably seen before, but for benefit of the public, we wanted to go through it again.
There's no excuse for tardiness.
There was quite the line, and I apologize.
I think you've got some pull around here, Mr. Horwedel.
Yeah. So. Clearly I don't, and I apologize. For the record, my name is Greg Horwedel, Deputy County Administrator. And as Tom was just beginning to say, and I'm thankful that he didn't have to pull duty on this one, but did want to go over with you the information that we have about the ballpark proposal. Some of this you have heard before. As Tom will tell you in the financial portion of this, I'll turn it back over to him when it's time. We'll go through the detail on the financing. Then I'll wrap it up with some key deal points that we have, because there's a lot of very complex and moving pieces to this transaction. So thank you for your time. And we will begin by noting this is a proposal that you have seen before. Several months ago, as you recall, the Rays proposed a new ballpark, 28,000 seat ballpark. The initial projection was 31,000, but the agreement that you have before you calls for a minimum of 28. There is new residential, commercial, and commercial, retail, and office and entertainment proposed as part of this development. The site, as you know, is the Hillsborough County College site. That college site will be redeveloped with new college buildings. The state has indicated it will put in $180 million for that development. 50 of that is in this year's budget. There's a total of $30 million of transportation improvements in that area and $150 million for a brand new campus. The ballpark estimate provided to us by the Rays is $2.3 billion, and they have requested approximately $876 million of public subsidy from the county and the city of Tampa to enable this project to happen. They have set a deadline of April 2029 in order for the ballpark to open. That is their projection. We are working diligently as we're bringing this forward to you to try and accommodate that timeline. There is significant development proposed around the ballpark, between 6 to 8 million square feet. As I mentioned earlier, hospitality, restaurants, retail, and entertainment. There's multifamily. I will point out that that is, at this stage, rental, because condominiums would be subject to the restrictions of Amendment 3. And that would significantly reduce the ongoing revenue stream from that development should that be condominiums rather than multifamily rental. The direct economic impact is projected to be $34 billion. The indirect is $21.5 billion, according to the Rays. As you may recall, AECOM provided to us about 3 months ago an assessment of that proposal based upon RC Elco's data. We've asked them to update that. They have verified that the minimum development proposal that the Rays have suggested is feasible in the city of Tampa. We asked them to look specifically at the Tampa market and our absorption rate and come up with some verification that that was a defensible position, and they have confirmed that. It's about 3.1 million square feet of multifamily rentals and almost 500,000 square feet of office, retail, destination dining, hotels, and entertainment. There's a 30-year gross financial impact from confirmed available sources that they estimate to be $2.5 billion. That's ad valorem taxes or property taxes, state and county sales taxes, and tourist development tax. The assessed ad valorem values are estimated to be $886 million in 2035. The total assessed values is expected to be more than $3 billion for the entire stadium district in 2059, excluding, of course, the ballpark and Hillsborough College. There are other impacts that the Rays have suggested will happen around that development site, but we did not consider those. We're not presenting those at this time because that's not anything that we can verify. We think that it's going to happen, but we can't put a number to that. The direct economic impact is expected to total $34.8 billion, with about 5,000 annualized jobs on a 30-year average. There's $12.3 billion in wage earnings associated with this proposed development. Adding the indirect brings it to 43.1. And the others benefiting from this proposal, and I think this is pretty important information, that Hillsborough College gets $180 million, as we mentioned previously, from the state. The state of Florida itself gets about $1.4 billion in sales tax. The school district benefits by about $278 million over the 30 years. The Library Services District, $22 million, HART, $22 million, the school board, $20 million, Water Management District, $7.8 million, Port Authority, $3.7 million, and even ELAP is about $220,000 over the 30 years. There's a community benefits agreement. That amount's unknown, but there will be a minimum of 65% going to the county. With that, now Tom can come on up and talk about the financial structure. Thanks.
So Commissioners, just had a few slides I wanted to run through to go over the financial aspects of the deal, the proposed deal. The city and county are proposing to contribute $876 million to the project. The primary funding source from the county is the community investment tax. When we first started out, we were looking at some different models and planning on borrowing against the community investment tax. We decided that wasn't the most efficient approach. So we changed the way that we were looking at things, and what we're coming back with today is a proposal where we actually fund during the construction period $90 million a year for 4 years. This will avoid us having to pay any interest from the community investment tax, and it will make it, in our view, the most efficient approach to use that funding. There was the meeting yesterday over at the City of Tampa. The City of Tampa is committing $80 million over the same 4-year period. I believe they are planning to borrow for those funds. Then we have the tourist development tax. I'm going to go over a slide with that and what that means in a couple of minutes. The county is committing up to $103 million in cash and reserves. I'll have a slide where I'll go over that a little bit also. And then finally, we have the CDBG disaster recovery funds on here of $30 million. That would be primarily for stormwater type improvements within the ballpark district. What I did want to point out in addition to that, so those are the county and the city proposed commitments, but also the state of Florida has donated the land for the ballpark district. They have also committed to $150 million to rebuild Hillsborough College. And finally, are committing about $30 million in transportation projects for the area. One of the things that we did want to run through with the board is just give you an idea of what we believe could be a recovery of the dollars of the investment that's made by the county. So in the previous slide, we had $876 million. Here we have $796 million, which is the county's contribution. I am backing out of that the tourist development tax because that relates to the 6-cent tourist development tax. Those funds and that revenue source is restricted, and it's restricted for a purpose such as this. So we did not believe that we necessarily needed to focus on recovering those dollars since that source was available to us. And then we have the CDBG DR. That's a grant, so we didn't feel like we needed to recover grant funds either. So what we end up with is a target recovery amount for the project for Hillsborough County of about $463 million. How do we intend to get those dollars back over time? I will tell you that those dollars will not be coming back to us quickly. It will take a long period of time to come back to us, but we do believe over the term of the lease that we will recover the funds that are going out. That will be in the form of, we've negotiated an annual rent amount of $4 million a year that the Rays would be paying to the county, and that includes a CPI adjustment every year. So over the 35 years of the lease, that could be up to $200 million. As Greg had mentioned earlier, we've been working with AECom on potential impacts and dollars that would be recovered. So some of these next few items here are the dollars that AECom believes that can be recovered over a 35-year period, which would be sales tax that goes up to the state. The state shares back about 8 to 10% of that with us. That's the $145 million. We've got sales tax that will be generated over the 30-year period that will actually increase the amount of CIT funds available because we've got $120 million there. We've got the half-cent CIT tax, so we believe that those revenues will be generated over that period of time. Finally, we have also an additional contribution from the state of Florida as we've gone through this process. The state of Florida has agreed to fund $100 million of our Lithia Pinecrest project. So that was a project that was originally budgeted at $200 million as part of the CIT renewal that you approved. It's one of the projects. So that's an offset that we'll be able to take against our CIT contribution of $360 million. I will also go over in a few minutes a community development district proposal for the site. That is where we will share revenues between the city, the county, and the CDD. Again, I will go over that in a few minutes to talk about the $87 million. And then finally, the last few sources will be tourist development taxes. Obviously, if we have a new complex like that, it will generate additional tourists coming to the area, so that will generate some additional tourist development tax dollars. Then there's the community benefits agreement. We haven't arrived at a final amount for that yet. As was, if you were watching yesterday, the proposal is for the county to benefit to the extent of about 65% and the city to benefit to the extent of 35%. But again, a total amount hasn't been agreed upon yet. And then finally, as the ballpark goes under construction, what would happen is we would have a value engineering process. So the way that it's built into the agreements are that if there are savings that are identified and the ballpark is not $2.3 billion and savings are identified, it will be shared proportionally between the Rays and the county and the city. So we would get some additional dollars back that way. Obviously, at this point, we can't project what those might be. As far as the tourist development taxes, we're proposing to use the 6-cent tourist development tax. We've got some reserves in both the 3-cent tourist development tax and the 6-cent that we believe could be used up front, $40 million. But then in addition to that, we're proposing $263 million of borrowing. There would be a first tranche of that of about $228 million. And then if capacity is available at some point in the future, there might be another up to $35 million borrowing associated with that. So this is the $303 million piece. Currently, out of the first 3 cents of the tourist development tax, that funds Visit Tampa Bay. As part of the 6-cent, 30% of the 6-cent currently goes to Visit Tampa Bay. So that amount would go away. We also are funding a couple of other things. We're making a $2 million a year contribution to the Tampa Convention Center through the 6-cent. And we also have one of our cultural assets program that runs through that area. So we would need to find some alternate funding sources for those. As far as other cash reserves, we've taken a look at reserves, unrestricted reserves that we have across the county. We believe that if we go out and take a look at things such as our half-cent sales tax reserves, we have economic development reserves, and you can see some other areas there. that we could come up with reasonably about $103 million of cash to be able to commit to the deal up front. We believe if we commit that amount, we still would have sufficient reserves and flexibility within our budget to be able to meet ongoing needs and service needs of the county. So it's a lot of money. I don't want to indicate that it's not, but we believe that we can come up with that and still be comfortable with having flexible enough reserves in the rest of the budget. The last slide I'll go over, it has to do with a community development district that would be associated with the ballpark site. So what ends up happening there is the primary funding source that would be generated would be property taxes in that area. So as development occurs, property taxes would begin to come into the county and the city. And so what I wanted to go over on this, what's really important on this piece is this is a big negotiating piece for us with the raise. And so where we ended up is, as it relates to the CDD, we kind of have a tiered approach. So when you come up with the first $350 million worth of development in the area, the county and the city's share of the property taxes coming back from that would be 70%, and then 30% would go back into the CDD. And what that means is the CDD would then reinvest those funds within the ballpark district for public purposes. So that could be reinvestments in our ballpark, which we think is a positive because we want to make sure it stays up to first-class standards. Or it could be other infrastructure type improvements within the ballpark district. At the next level, this is an incentivized approach. So we did our best to negotiate a guarantee on the development in the area. This was kind of the negotiated approach, which is more of a tiered approach where we can incentivize development. So as the taxable value goes up and the development increases in that area, the percentage that the county and the city receive goes down because we want to incentivize. But the key to this is that each and every year, the county and the city get the 70% up to 350. We get the 50% up between 350 and 650, and then over the $650 million of taxable value in the area, then we go down to 15% and the CDD gets 85%. I just, at the bottom here, gave kind of an example. I used information that was provided to us by the raise. They kind of gave us estimated development values over a 30-year period. Over that 30-year period, they gave us minimum that they thought they could develop and then a target. That's kind of their aspirational. What you're seeing here is the minimum development that was proposed by the raise and what that would result in. What that results in is the county receiving over a 30-year period about $87 million from the CDD area that we could use in other areas of the county for our general purposes outside of the ballpark district. The city would receive $100 million. Their share is a little bit larger because this is based on, obviously, millage rates. And the city of Tampa's millage rate is slightly higher than Hillsborough County's. And then finally, the amount that would stay with the CDD would be $395 million. And again, that would go back into infrastructure type improvements or public type of improvements within the ballpark district. Could go to the stadium, could go to other improvements in that area. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Greg.
Thanks, Tom. As you can see, there's been quite a bit of detailed negotiation about the financial component, but there are many other pieces of this discussion that we've had with the raise and with the city that have led to the agreement that you have before you. The model that we have looked at through this process is the Battery in Atlanta. That was done about 10 years ago. It is today starting to generate significant tax revenue for Cobb County, and it is important to recognize that these types of development with surrounding ancillary buildings development are the type of model that many professional sports teams are looking at, and that's the model that we looked at here. Since the ballpark site does not create any ad valorem tax revenue today, all of the incentive-based concepts that Tom talked about and that we've negotiated in the agreement will generate dollars for not only the county, but also the city and the CDD. And I want to emphasize that that's a public entity, and they are subject to all the public records laws, they have a governing board, and all of their actions are subject to public scrutiny. Bond validation is an important component of this. We want to make sure that the courts look at the proposed deal and bless it so that everything can be moved forward. We don't want to have any loose ends. If there might be a question about whether some of the financials are able to be used for this project. The ballpark design is to be mutually agreed by the city, the county, and the Tampa Sports Authority with the Rays. I think that's an incredibly important point. We've spent significant time on that concept, and we are going to have a joint conversation about the features and amenities contained in the ballpark, specifically the public areas, because we think that that's important, that public dollars go to support the public areas of the proposed ballpark. I know with certainty that TSA, the county, and the city are going to be looking at value engineering along with the Rays to try and reduce the cost. We have not yet seen formal blueprints, but we are confident that there's probably some cost savings. I can't give you a magnitude right now, but I'm certain that TSA will look at that very, very closely. The public areas are non-taxable. Private areas pay ad valorem taxes. The county owns the ballpark and the ground under it after construction. I do want to emphasize one other point, that the Rays have agreed to cover all cost overruns. So even after all of this, if there are additional costs that are related to the construction of the stadium, the Rays are responsible for that. There's a 35-year license and use agreement, and they have 5 3-year options to extend. The Rays are going to pay $40 million annual rent with CIP adjustments. As Tom indicated earlier, that is a significant revenue source that we believe helps offset the initial county investment. There's a non-relocation agreement that requires the Rays to play their home games in Hillsborough County throughout the term of the agreement. There's a guarantee agreement that requires the Rays to perform. So all of the things that they've said financially and all of the conditions precedent that I know our county attorney will talk about after I'm done, all of those are required for the Rays to perform. There's no city or county obligation to pursue alternate funding sources. We think that's critical. There may be something that, for whatever reason, falls through the cracks. We don't think that's likely, but at this stage, we want to be absolutely sure that we're not on the hook for finding additional funding if something like that were to happen. This county may choose to reduce the final payment if the state does not follow through on its $100 million commitment for Lithia Pinecrest. We think that's a remote possibility, but we want to be absolutely sure our job is to protect the county and the county taxpayers so that we can make sure that those dollars, if they don't come through to CIT and offset some of our other CIT contributions, we have a mechanism in place to hold back some of the dollars. As mentioned earlier, there's a community benefits agreement. No less than 65% will go to the county. And finally, ballpark construction will follow public procurement law. There are 3 agreements before you. These are the foundational documents. They are necessary for us to have the following agreements formalized, and we're still working on those. But these 3 that are before you today, I know the county attorney will talk more in detail about them, these are the foundational pieces that we absolutely need. If the board feels like this project is something that we need to have in our community, we have to have your assent to approve these and then move forward. So we'll be looking for that during your discussion and direction. With that, I'll turn it over to Julia, and following Julia's comments, Tom and I and Julia and a county administrator will all be available for questions.
Thank you very much. And Greg and Tom did a really excellent job going through the highlights of the agreement. It's obviously a very dense agreement with a lot of legal stuff in it, but I think it's important that everybody understands that we, through this process, wanted to ensure that the document protected the county and the city as well as our partner in order to ensure that we were moving forward through this process with a document that we could live with and could recommend. I'm going to just go through some of the other kind of higher points and not belabor them, but certainly can be available for any questions. The financial pieces have been discussed and how those are going to work, but I do think it kind of runs into three tranches. One is the county's contribution, the second is the city's contribution, the third is the team's contribution, and then the piece related to the CDD and how that will be set up. Procedurally, for the CDD to be set up, a couple things are going to need to happen. We're going to have to create what's called a home rule TIF, and that's set forth in the agreement. We're going to have a CDD created, and I know many of you are familiar with CDDs as we create them in the county as well, and those are governmental entities. And then there will have to be an interlocal agreement that is between the CDD, the city, and the county for the funds, the ad valorem funds that are in what you will see as Exhibit E that describes how those funds will occur, how those will be transferred to the CDD. I think it's very important to understand that the CDD is governed by state statute. So how those funds can ultimately be spent through the project will have to be in line with the statutory provisions of the CDD, and we will also have further opportunity to govern those through an interlocal agreement. And that is something that will, of course, come later, but it is the way that is set up. The other piece that I wanted to note to you is that these different contributions that we're going through, some of them will be bonded, and those will require a bonding resolution. However, all of the pieces of this, the financial pieces of this, will be obligated to go through a bond validation proceeding in court. And so that is a condition precedent to us funding any of this money. It will have to go through that process. Although it is a process that can be expedited, it will take some period of time. The team is aware of that, and they understand that that is something that will be obligated for us to proceed forward. There was a number of questions through this process as it related to our use of the CIT funds. I had provided previously those legal opinions that we've received. However, I anticipate that those issues will come up through a bond validation proceeding, and if there's any appeals to those, they go to directly to the Supreme Court. But I think it's important for everybody to know the money can't start right away. It's not like we're writing a check tomorrow. These things have to go through the process. In addition to the bond validation proceeding being a condition precedent, there is numerous condition precedents to us putting one dime into this project. I think there's about 28 of them, but the ones that I will highlight for you are the ones related to the city's got to have their money, we have to put our money in, and the team has to put their money into what will be a construction trust fund, and that will be governed by a separate agreement. All of the agreements, not just the agreements that are in front of you today, which are inclusive of the funding agreement, the guarantee agreement, and the non-relocation agreement. But the other agreements that were discussed, that Greg discussed with you, the use agreement, all of these interlocal agreements with the CDD, the creation of a home rule TIF, the ability to have that interlocal agreement with the CDD, all of those things have to occur prior to funding. So those are other steps that will come forward in this process. And I also want to note that and I've seen a lot of questions about this, the financial capability of the team. There are two entities that you've seen in these documents. One is Holdco, which is basically the parent company or the parent funding of the team, and then Stadco and Teamco, which are the separate pieces of how they're running their stadium operations. And I'm not getting in the weeds on that. There's corporate governance that a lot of folks can talk about, but I'm trying to make it kind of simple and clear. They will have to provide us, both Holdco and Stadco and Teamco, all of their financial capability prior to us funding in a manner acceptable to us. That is a very specific part of all of this. You will also see that the team guarantee is through Holdco, and one of the changes that I'm going to be asking to be able to make on that document is something that the team has agreed to on the guarantee document, which says that that funding mechanism and the funding information will be available to us at our request through the life of the guarantee, not just prior to funding. So we will have additional opportunities throughout the life of this agreement to be able to ask for that information. Some of the other issues that I think are really important and critical and things that we've seen relate to the comprehensive plan and the entitlement ability for them to proceed forward, not just with the stadium, the ballpark as it were, but also with their mixed-use development. And there was a point in time, there was a comprehensive plan amendment that was pending in front of the city of Tampa that was not transmitted to the state. There has been another comp plan amendment that has been filed. That comp plan amendment is critical not just for the mixed-use development, but also for the construction of the ballpark. That will be a condition precedent of this as well, or other opportunities for them to develop without the comp plan amendment, but candidly, I don't think that's a realistic opportunity. They were going to have that as part of their ability to move forward. So that is specified in the agreement as a condition precedent, as well as receiving any other permitting opportunities that they'll need through whatever mechanisms. Because it's college property, they do have some ability to permit through the college, but that is dealt with within the body of the agreement. As it relates to the non-relocation agreement, there was a conversation and a question about some other creditors that may have some rights to any of the assets of the team. They will be obligated to provide us evidence that the non-relocation agreement can't be segregated to another entity. It's a nuance, but one I think is very important to point out to you. I did also want to note that yesterday, and many of you may have watched, the city of Tampa did approve the agreement. It was quite a lengthy process over there, and I did have the opportunity to attend that hearing and answer any questions that might be necessary as it related to the county. The city of Tampa did make a few tweaks to the agreement that we will need to make to our agreement. The two most specific tweaks that they made related, and they all related to their issues, not our issues, but related to their $80 million, and that they would have the opportunity to have that $80 million paid out on a reimbursement basis, as well as a provision in the agreement that says that they were not that by virtue of the agreement, we weren't agreeing to their deal, and we're not agreeing to our deal, that we're standing alone in this, but that, I shouldn't say agreeing, they weren't blessing our deal, and we aren't blessing their deal, that we're coming together on this, but they wanted to make sure that there was some separation there. Those are, as part of any motion that you might make if you were to proceed forward, I would need authority to true up those two agreements in order to proceed forward. I did also want to note that Scott Steady, the city attorney, is in attendance, as well as Chief of Staff John Bennett and City CFO Dennis Rojero. If you have any questions of them as it relates to the city's part of this, or any of the other questions or alignments that we've had, they have been wonderful partners. I got to go home a little bit yesterday to my old haunting grounds to spend some time with them, and it was an interesting experience, but I have to tell you, it led me to realize that I absolutely adore being here. So I felt compelled to say that for the record. No offense to my city friends. The final thing I did want to point out, and I should have pointed it out earlier, has to do with the process of an owner's rep through the construction process, and TSA has also been an amazing partner. Eric Hart is here as well. I've had the chance to work with him very closely on some of these provisions. There will be an owner's rep that will have robust engagement in this process, and what we've also added into the agreement is a project neutral process. It is a process that we've used with other sports teams, that as we go through the process, if our owner's rep doesn't agree with something that the Rays have proposed, and it's something that we can't just work out ourselves, there's an opportunity to go through an expedited project neutral kind of arbitrator process, And that way, we're able to get to a place where we can find some comfort with what the ultimate decisions are, as opposed to it, just being something that the team can say yes or no to. It's not a question of veto power. It's a question of having a partnership on a building that we have put extensive resources in, and that we want to see be an excellent example of a type of facility that we can be proud of, much like we're proud of the other facilities that we have. So with that, I will end my boring diatribe of the legal nuances, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure there'll be questions for staff, and I'd ask board members to reserve those for during board discussion. We'll go into public comment now. The board welcomes comments from citizens. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing valuable input to board members. However, at the same time, it is requested when you address the board that comments are not directed personally at commissioners or staff, but rather the issues. I know there are passionate feelings on both sides of this issue. I am going to ask everyone to please be civil and respectful to those speaking during public comment. The chair will call on speakers by name in the order in which their requests to speak have been received. When addressing the board, please state your name and speak clearly into the microphone. Board members, we have 55 individuals that have signed up to speak, consistent with how the board handles when we have significant number of speakers. I'd ask for a motion for each speaker to be given 2 minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, first three speakers this morning, Robert Emerson, followed by Michael Marino, and then Karen Jarosh. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. I'm Robert Emerson, I live in Apollo Beach. I'm humbled to give some brief comments here. I'm also humbled having to follow Tom Fessler. I feel like a singer trying to follow Sinatra here after Tom's comments, but I'll be brief. I'm here to argue against the proposal. The first reason is the optics are so horribly bad, guys. Like there's not enough money in professional sports already. The owners are all multi-billionaires. The players are all multi-millionaires. And to come to a hard-pressed taxpayer who's trying to save a few dollars to buy a new bike for his kids, the optics are just horrible. Now, I have no problem with people making good money. I've been accused of that myself occasionally. But it seems to me that the club could finance this themselves quite easily. They could float a bond issue, maybe 20, 30-year bond issue, a little bit low end of investment grade, BBB, for a coupon of 7, bond coupon, maybe 7.25%. They could take own the whole thing, not have to come to the hard-pressed taxpayers. Optics are just terrible. Second thought. I am from Philadelphia originally, some years ago. We rebuilt our sports complex, and it's great. I like the proposed complex here, and the Philadelphia complex was great, pleasant to go to, but again, it's the public financing that's the problem. And also, I've observed closely with the Philadelphia experience, for example, the economic benefits are illusory. Illusory is the word I would use. So,
thank you, Mr. Emerson.
I'm out of time. Thanks.
Appreciate the comment, sir. Michael Marino, followed by Karen Jarosh, and then Carmen Edmonds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Marino, Executive Director, West Shore Alliance. We encourage you to support the raise proposal for the potential economic and infrastructure impact in West Shore and Drew Park. Big projects need public-private partnerships and policy and funding. In this case, you're turning public land into taxable private land. It is the best way to get a return on the public's investment. We encourage you to support this project. It deserves your support. We look forward to working with you to make it a success for all Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Karen Jarosh, followed by Carmen Edmonds, and then Susan Nicely. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Karen Jarosh. I don't know if the Elmo's up, but today we're going to finally find out if we're going to prepare for our winter here in Florida, which is hurricanes and massive growth, or if we're going to sing and dance our CIT away. 7 years ago, my husband and I used our savings to buy property and start a business in Tampa. The city didn't give us the land. We bought a suitable parcel that was not already a college campus, a tax collector's office, or a law enforcement headquarters. There's vacant land next door from the city. They didn't give it to us so that we could make a bigger profit. Our nest egg wasn't big enough to complete the purchase, so we had to refinance our home to come up with the funds our business needed. The city and county didn't pay half. They didn't tax our nearby neighbors for 35 years to make our mortgage payments. And when our roof fails, the city's not going to come, the county's not going to come and fix it. We're going to do it. This is the deal that ordinary businesses normally get, and we work hard and we make it work. I was looking at the deal. This is the proposed property. If you look at that closely, you can see, actually, here's a better picture of it. You can see the campus here, the HCC campus. Oh, sorry. You can see the HCC campus right here. It's hard to read the lines, but you'll notice that that campus, there's 122 acres. HCC is being relegated to 7 acres. This outline here is the ballpark. We're upending the principle of development should pay for itself. We're actually gifting them about $250 million in valuable land. That's not being considered here.
Thanks, Mr. Roche. Appreciate your comments. Carmen Edmonds.
I just want to say,
sorry, ma'am, your time's over.
We're going to know if we're prepared for winter or not.
Thank you, Mr. Roche.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Carmen Edmonds and Susan Nicely and Kathy Brown. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carmen Edmonds. I'm chair of the Hillsborough County Republican Party, and we voted again Tuesday night at our meeting to unanimously ask you all to vote no on the taxpayer money going towards a new stadium. I've also had over 300 people email our county party requesting no taxpayer money be used for a new stadium, and I also have a video preloaded of more people stating no taxpayer money should or would be used for a new stadium. Is there volume on that?
I've stated on several occasions that I do not. With respect to ballot language, I'm supportive of removing the school board reference and the community stadium reference that was in the initial 96 ballot language. Commissioner Wolstel makes excellent points regarding Ray J. Unquestionably, that was a sweetheart deal. I completely supported eliminating a community stadium or stadiums being built with the tax. Totally fine with that. Totally fine with eliminating TSA receiving money off the top as is currently used as a CIT.
I will move to amend the ordinance to prohibit the use of CIT funds for new professional sports facilities.
I can live with that. Commissioner Cameron-Spado?
Yes, I'm going to support
but I am totally in agreement with not investing in any new facilities with this CIT money. I don't think we should be going there.
Thank you, Commissioner Watson, for making that motion, because I do agree with your motion.
Well, first of all, we've already eliminated community stadium, right, off the original ordinance. So that in and of itself, I would think, signals that we're not building any new stadiums. And so stadium is out of it. We didn't advertise community stadium on this go around, correct?
So I think we get the gist there. We are not opposed to the Rays building a stadium. I agree with Bob Emerson. They have plenty of money to do it themselves. What we are opposed to is taxpayer money going towards a stadium when we are here in this county suffering with potholes, infrastructure issues, drainage issues, and all kinds of things that are affecting our community. Please vote no.
Appreciate your comments. Susan Nicely, followed by Kathy Brown, and then Dr. James Davison.
Thank you. Susan Nicely. I've lived in Tampa for 46 years, and I've watched the city and county deteriorate. The roads are horrible. The sidewalks are worse. They're like a glow in the dark with all the caution strips because you can't fix them. You're going to use our bonds and resource money for millionaires when you scolded us for years that they could not be used to fix our roads and our infrastructure. How can you compare? How can you sit there after promising not to use our tax dollars and still stand there and want to build a stadium for millionaires? If you vote no, we will campaign hard against you.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Nicely. Kathy Brown, and then Dr. James Davison, and then Melanie Alvarez. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Kathy Brown. I've lived in Valrico here now for 52 years. And as Susan pointed out, our roads have deteriorated and gotten worse and worse. Finally doing some work, but most of it's to put water down to South County. But I'm a big Rays fan. I love the Rays. I would love to have the Rays Stadium here. But this is a bad deal for us, for the county, for the city. That $360 million from the CIT, that money should be spent for roads, for police, for fire protection. The bond interest on the $786 million that we're contributing is going to add a huge amount to that. We're going to be spending over $1 million over the years that we have to paying the bonds. The county cannot afford this. And what if Amendment 3 passes? It'll be even worse. Our roads are going to get worse than ever. It's going to feel like we're back in the early 1900s, and potholes and bumps and everything. We just cannot afford it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Dr. James Davison, not sure if he's here or online. And then Melanie Alvarez and Paul Elliott.
Online.
Okay, good morning, Dr. Davison.
Yes, the $360 million that was to be spent in unincorporated Hillsborough County at the referendum is now going to be spent completely within the city of Tampa. This gift to the city of Tampa will raise their share of the CIT to 30% of the total CIT value and decrease the total amount of CIT of Hillsborough County to a little over 61%. That's in violation of the interlocal agreement that the people voted on. So you lied about how much money the tax was going to raise, you lied about the stadium, and now you're lying about the interlocal agreement. That's a lot of lies for one referendum. There are going to be consequences, and we're in no hurry. But until this lying and the falsifying of referendum stops, the people of this county aren't going to get what's needed, and they haven't been for the last 25, 30 years. The county is going to, or the Rays are going to get $1.2 billion from the CDD. The entire amount of money from the CDD that the Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa are going to get is 1/5 of that. So I hope you enjoy what you're going to do today, but I can tell you there will be a remedy in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Davison.
Can you state your name for the record? I think we lost him.
Listen.
It's Dr. Jim Davison. All right, Melanie Alvarez, followed by Paul Elliott, and then Linda Reed. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Melanie Alvarez, and I'm speaking today on behalf of Americans for Prosperity and taxpayers of Hillsborough County. Yesterday, the Tampa City Council voted 4-3 to move forward with the Rays Stadium deal, but that does not mean that the county should rush to follow. This isn't about being anti-baseball or wanting the Rays to leave our region. It's about asking a simple question. What are the taxpayers getting in return for this investment? We keep hearing about economic development in a transformational misuse district, but where is that new economic activity actually coming from? We don't know what businesses will locate there, and if businesses simply move from another part of Tampa or Hillsborough County into this development, that isn't creating new economic activity. It's moving the economic activity from one place to another while taxpayers are helping to pay for it. That is not the same thing as economic development. There is no reason to rush this decision. Documents were still coming in as late as Tuesday night, and it doesn't appear that we really have a final deal here. There's been a lot of problems with transparency, and we also have Amendment 3 on the November ballot that we don't know what those implications will be for the county's finances. Why make a multi-generational financial commitment before we have those answers? And let's remember, Hillsborough County is still paying for Raymond James Stadium. This excitement surrounding this project does not change the responsibility that you all have to the taxpayers. Excitement is not a financial analysis, promises are not guarantees, and moving businesses is not the same as creating new economic activity. Commissioners, there's nothing wrong with taking more time. In fact, with this much taxpayer money and this many unanswered questions, taking more time is responsible government. Please slow this process down and get the final documents, examine true taxpayer exposure.
Appreciate your comments. Paul Elliott. Paul here. Don't see Paul. Followed by Linda Reed. Linda. Then we have Ron Reaver and Brett Whaley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Ms. Weaver.
You're going to get an opportunity today to make a once-in-a-lifetime selection for our children and our grandchildren. And it's not just the $56 billion worth of economy. Even if half of that is all that's going to come in, and you see from the Battery in Columbus, Ohio, and Sacramento, California, that those economic models do hold up. But even if it's half of that, the sales tax on that would be $7 billion over the next century. It'd be $2.5 billion over just the next 30 years. The economy, however, is not the story today for our children. Our children and our grandchildren want to know if we get things done. We can get this done and then we can get rail done. These 10 million visitors a year for this stadium are going to speed up rail maybe by a decade. These billion visitors a century, that's right, 1 billion visitors a century are going to change this community. 81 home games. Not just 9 or 20, but 81 home games and 30 concerts, $29 billion worth of wages, 12,000 jobs. The opportunity for our children to see that we can do, that we must do when the time comes. We tackle this, then we'll start tackling our insurance rates together with some kind of a common pool and a common fund. Then we'll tackle our education by raising our teachers' pay in order to get our game together, not just baseball, not just community. America's pastime, maybe baseball, but the community's unitedness and oneness is our lifeline. We must save for our children. We must save for our grandchildren the opportunity to see that this community comes together, that we celebrate together. Monsignor Higgins and George and Leonard Levy and Tommy Kuhn and the others took much greater odds in getting us the things that we've gotten for our pride and our economy and our sense of self, our sense of ability to get things done. This is a transformational project. Thank you.
Weaver. Appreciate the comments. Paul Elliott or Linda Reed, going, okay. Brett Whaley, is Brett here? No Brett? Okay, we've got Sharon Calvert, who's virtual, followed by Monica Potter and Steve Kona, the third.
Sharon has not checked in.
Sharon's not checked in, okay. Monica Potter, followed by Steve Kona, the third, and then Devin Potter. Come on now.
Good morning, Commissioner. Steve Kona, excuse me, President and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors, Florida Gulf Coast Chapter, representing 650 construction firms in the region and thousands of skilled workers. Our construction industry has been a part of this journey for decades, providing countless hours of pre-construction services, planning, estimating, and expertise to make this race stadium a reality. And today is our final moment, our Game 7. But this project is bigger than a stadium. It represents one of the largest economic and workforce development opportunities our region has ever seen. Through Hillsborough College, our construction apprenticeship programs, and our local contractors, we have the opportunity to put a generation of skilled workers on a transformational project right here at home. The apprentices who help build this project today can become superintendents, project managers, and construction business owners of tomorrow. We have spent decades trying to get here. Now is the time to build it. I respectfully ask for you all to vote yes in support. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Devin Potter, followed by Laura Lawson.
All right. Hey, good morning. My name is Devin Potter. As a taxpayer, constituent, and a Rays fan, I've followed this saga for months, and I just want to present some metrics during my time up here, because facts can't be argued with and numbers don't lie. So let's do some benchmarking, and these aren't my numbers. This is all from AI Assistant. Las Vegas, new MLB stadium, $380 million in public financing. Also Las Vegas, NFL stadium, $750 million or 40% of the total cost. You might say that's Las Vegas, they have all that casino revenue. Nashville, Tennessee, $1.26 billion for a new NFL stadium. Plano, Texas, a suburb of Dallas, home to their new hockey arena for the Dallas Stars, and that deal was done in a week. What makes Tampa different? Why should we be the anomaly, the deviation, the outlier? Those places I listed, they have potholes, first responders, et cetera. And what does that say about us and our region if we say no to an agreement like this? What message does that send to investors looking to come here, companies looking to relocate here, people thinking of moving here? Now, no deal is going to be perfect, and not everyone is going to agree on every detail, but that doesn't mean if every box isn't checked that we vote no on it. Not a project of this size and what's at stake here. Now, I have to imagine there were details in the Las Vegas funding that not everyone loved. It was approved. I'm sure the same holds true for Nashville, Atlanta, Plano, Texas. Those folks clearly saw the forest through the trees and pushed those deals through because of what it would mean for their respective regions. Let's look at some other metrics. The economic data, there's not one, not two, but 3 economic impact reports that evidence this will be a net positive for the region. The numbers also show the majority, 60%, according to a survey, support this project and want this to happen. So we're at the 11th hour, ladies and gentlemen. No one wants to see the Rays start looking elsewhere. The numbers, the data, the facts say the following. This is a win for the county, it's a win for the city, it's a win for the Rays, and most importantly, it's a win for the citizens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Next up is Laura Lawson, followed by Rebecca DeBauer.
Good morning, Commissioners. I came today to talk about some of the losses that we're going to suffer and the risks that we're going to face with this property because of this project. Ms. Jarosh was kind enough to loan me her map.
Please use the mic.
As you can see in the corner here of the site, that's the tax collector's office that's going to be knocked down. That right there in the corner, that top corner, that's the tax collector's office that's going to be knocked down. That's where people get their driver's licenses. It's the most used tax collector's office in the county in an excellent location. That's going to be gone. Right there, that's the juvenile justice facility. That's where they've been cleaning out. They've moved 50 kids out of that facility. These are kids who have not seen their day in court yet, and they're being detained there, and they're being moved to other counties as far away as Brevard County. Right here, that's Hillsborough College. The plan is to demolish 8 buildings and auction off the contents. Students are currently taking classes in all kinds of fields there at that campus. It's our main campus, and it's the one campus that we have in the city of Tampa with room to grow. Imagine how hard that would be in Ybor City, where the other campus is. We know the land is very expensive there. This whole square was state land. The part of it that's the college was supposed to be a community college forever. The only reason that deed restriction isn't in place is because in order to do this plan, the governor canceled it. I want, if we have to do this plan, we need to find solutions for this, particularly for the juvenile justice. But I really hope that we don't demolish any buildings, especially if a lawsuit is brought. The problem is the stadium gets a first-class stadium. For everyone else, it's wait and see. The stadium, the Rays get a smooth transition. Everyone else is suddenly displaced. The Rays get guaranteed contracted funding, but there's nothing firm in place to replace these community assets. Thank you.
Can you state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Laura Lawson.
Next up is Rebecca DeBauer, followed by Jeff Dow and Elizabeth Braden Virtual. No Rebecca Dower. Jeff Dow, please.
Hello, Commissioners. It's been a while. Last time I was here, the board looked a little different. So thank you guys for doing what we hoped that you would do. And I hope that continues on today. We believe, we think, hasn't been agreed upon yet if the state does pay, these are all things I heard earlier this morning. First off, I want to say I'm a huge Rays fan. I'm a huge sports fan in general. I love Tampa. I've been here 12 years. I served 10 years in the military, and there's one thing that I learned. When I put on petty officer, I had to prove that I knew how to balance a budget. Nice to have, must have are two different categories. I live in an area in Tampa near one of our primary commissioners down the street, and our roads are falling apart. My truck feels like I'm gonna lose the bed before I make it to the end of the street. We have potholes throughout this county. We have people in South County that have water issues. We have people up in North County that have potholes and terrible roads. I'm all for a stadium, but not at the expense of all of us. It doesn't make sense. I own a business. If you guys saw years back, a little two-seater Miata towing a trailer. That was me starting my business because I couldn't get funding anywhere, because I couldn't show that I made enough profit. Even though I pulled $54,000 that first year and the second year, I couldn't even get a loan for $10,000 anywhere. Because I had 5 times more than I was making, I still wasn't given that loan. If we can't provide and cover the cost of something ahead of time while taking care of the must-haves, we shouldn't be doing this. As much as I love the sports in this city, I implore you to make the right decision. It's on record. You guys have heard your own words. You're hearing what those of us are saying today. Amendment 3 is coming up. How can you make a decision today on record with unknowns still ahead of you? I implore you to do the right thing, and we're all paying attention a lot more than you think that we are. I didn't use a script. I don't have bullet notes.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Elizabeth Braden virtual, followed by Michelle Dyson in person. Did Elizabeth check in?
Elizabeth, are you there?
Yes. Hi, are you ready?
Go ahead.
Hello? My name is Elizabeth Braden. I'm a South Tampa resident, and I'm urging you to vote no. My daughter was at New College during the hostile takeover 3 years ago. The takeover was to destroy wokeness and to establish school sports. DeSantis put his cronies in. 30% of the faculty left, 100 students transferred out, including my daughter. The school's rankings plummeted, and the state's cost per student is the highest in the state, 3 times higher than the University of Florida. My daughter never finished her degree. The next DeSantis hostile takeover was at USF Manatee. New College took it over, and 900 students lost for college. And now Hillsborough College is the target for a hostile takeover, a smash and grab mafia bust out. DeSantis' campaign donor, who were UF trustees after the donation they gave, are now owners of the Rays, and they will now destroy Hillsborough College with 27,000 students while screwing over the taxpayers of Hillsborough County. And most of our elected officials, unfortunately, will vote for this. At Hillsborough College board meeting the other day, the CFO said they need $215 million to rebuild the campus. Atwater, the president, telling everybody they only need $150 million. Who do you believe? We know Atwater has to go with the flow. They only received $50 million from the state. They will have to beg from the state to get the additional funds competing with charter school. They can't even fix their elevator. The school will be a shell of itself, all in the name of baseball. Students think that the school is being renovated. Faculty is told to be positive about the project. Students will be in trailers while noise and messy construction goes on. Many students will drop out, like my daughter. They can't drive to Ybor or Brandon. Yesterday at the meeting, 2 council members said they went to HDC. Lucky in their case, the elected officials at the time didn't sell their campus out to billionaires. At the meeting yesterday, the city's lawyer stated no one has even seen the Rays financials. I wonder if the owners are broke, as the shady subprime lenders used to say back in the
Thank you for your comments.
2000.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Michelle Dyson, followed by Cynthia Schellbarger and Rocky Rockford.
Hi, my name is Michelle Dyson. I'm a bartender at Tropicana Fields. I'm not here with polished talking points, and I definitely am not a politician or a big economics person. But even as a high school graduate, I would say that this is a pretty good deal. If we're being honest, the stadium itself, we know is not the moneymaker. We know it's the restaurants. We know it's the money that comes from there. I love this deal. I think it's a pretty damn good deal. I can sat and listening to a lot of these, and we hand out a lot of money to a lot of people who aren't vetted. You hand out millions, but yet these businessmen come in, established, showing what they've done other places, and we hold their feet to the fire, and I'm not really sure why. And the gentleman earlier talked about the unknowns. Well, we can't govern. There's always unknowns. We live in hurricane country, right? We always will have unknown. We don't know whether that amendment will pass or not, but we can't do this based on that. We have to take care of the people who work there, the community. I trust that you know how to spend the money wisely and protect us as citizens of this community. The only problem I have with everything is the name Champions Quarter. I don't feel like that expressed the home of of Tampa. And I made this shirt to say that the soul is the name that I picked. I think it suggests the warmth of the soul of our city and a tip to our Latin culture. I put at Drew Park because we shouldn't forget the people, the hardworking people there. And I just hope that this passes. This should be my final time speaking, I hope, on any of this. So I appreciate everything and good luck to you. I pray for each of you that you make the correct decision today. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dyson. Cynthia Schellebarger, followed by Robert Rockford, and then Brian Lambert. Good morning.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Schellebarger. Good morning, commissioners. Today you are being asked to cast a historic vote on a 134-page stadium agreement. While this board has worked hard, there are two distinct unresolved issues in this contract that require you to vote no today until they are fixed. This stadium deal requires the demolition of 8 vital Hillsborough College buildings. Yet, the state funding to replace these classrooms is not legally secure. When it came to suburban asphalt, you negotiated brilliantly. You inserted a protective, quote, escape valve, unquote, for Lithia Pinecrest Road, declaring that if the state fails to deliver its $100 million promise, the county will deduct the exact shortfall from the stadium fund. Why aren't you using this exact same technique to protect our college students? If a clawback provision is good enough for tarmac, it must be good enough for higher education. Use your leverage. Demand the exact same clawback protection for Hillsborough College. Yesterday, the Tampa City Council realized at the last second that the community benefits agreement does not contain a single dollar amount. It is completely blank. Councilwoman Lynn Hertak rightly demanded a baseline of at least $75 million to protect local residents. But instead of fixing it, the city left it to this board. In business, you never sign a contract first and negotiate a price later. The RAISE framework states that 65% of these community benefits must go directly to Hillsborough College. By signing a blank check today, you surrender 100% of your leverage and leave the county housing and job training programs exposed. Vote no today. Tell negotiators to secure the Hillsborough College clawback and lock a minimum of $75 million into the community benefits agreement. Thank you.
Robert Rockford, followed by Brian Lambert, and then John Michael Elms. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Rocky Rochford, and I'm a retired U.S. Navy captain with 33 years of service, and I've been to Hillsborough County as called home since 1989. I'm speaking to you today as a taxpayer. I'm here because you have a fiduciary agreement to the 1.5 million people of this county, and this agreement, as written, doesn't live up to that duty. Let's talk the numbers. When you factor in property tax breaks, value of the land, analysts have put the true cost of this deal at north of $2 billion. And that's for a franchise that sold last year for $1.7 billion. There's a better deal out there, you just didn't ask for it. The CIT you're tapping for $360 million was approved by voters in 2024. Your own colleague, Commissioner Wurstel, said it plainly. It's not if we get sued on this, it's when, and he is right. Community benefits. When you read the actual CBA, there is no specific dollar amounts, no enforceable commitments, no binding targets, no independent oversight. That's not a CBA, that's a press release. Let's compare our CBA to what other communities have actually negotiated. The Buffalo Bills, $3 million for 30 years, an oversight committee, 30% MWBE hiring goals. LA Clippers, $100 million for local programs. The Falcons, over $106 million. And then there are the owners who didn't ask for a single public dollar. Golden State Warriors built the $1 billion Chase Center. Stan Kroenke built SoFi Stadium for $5.5 billion. No public subsidies. What did you negotiate? $4 million a year in rent. On an $876 million tab, that's a 0.46% annual return. A simple savings account pays 10 times that. I'm asking you to do only one thing: delay the vote for 90 days. Negotiate a real CBA with enforceable dollar commitments. Demand a 25-year homestead extension clause. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the comments. Brian Lambert, followed by John Michael Elms, and then Chris Paradis, who's virtual. Good morning.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is Brian Lambert. I'm here as a taxpayer, a resident, a libertarian candidate for Congress, and someone who generally wants our region to thrive. I want to be clear from the start. I love baseball. I want to raise the remaining part of our community, but requiring our $360 million of taxpayer funds from the CIT fund to subsidize a billion-dollar industry is not the answer. CIT was created to fund public infrastructure, roads, bridges, drainage, public safety, and community centers. These are things every resident needs and uses. A stadium, by contrast, is entertainment, something not every resident needs. It's meaningful entertainment and prideful to many fans, but it is still entertainment. And when only a small percentage of the county regularly attend games, it's not fair to ask the entire population of the county to carry the cost. The proposal asks for more than 1 million people to fund a private sports club worth more than $1.7 billion, owned by a governing agency worth more than $79 billion. That is difficult to justify when families are dealing with struggles at home with higher housing costs, insurance costs, transportation, basic infrastructure. The money is limited. When the money is limited, public priorities should be first. We often criticize the federal government for spending beyond its means. We point to the debt and say correctly that this pattern is unsustainable. If we recognize the problem at the national level, why would we repeat it locally? The state has shown fiscal discipline and break the cycle. The county government should do the same. We should not start a new cycle by shifting private business costs on the taxpayers. Supporters may argue that investment will create economic benefits. That's not the question. The question is whether is this the best and fairest use of taxpayer dollars designated for infrastructure. The project is truly strong, and the team in the league believe in the market, then baseball should pay for baseball. I ask you to protect the purpose of the CIT fund, use infrastructure dollars for infrastructure, use taxpayer dollars for needs that serve the broad public, and keep the raise if we can, but do not do it by asking the residents to pay for it.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Appreciate it. John Michael Elms. Mr. Elms here? No. We got Chris Paradis, who's virtual, followed by Sandra Maresca, and then Abraham Desta. Mr. Paradis on the line?
Chris has not checked in.
Okay, thank you. Sandra Maresca? Sandra here? No? Okay, how about, all right, come on down. And then following Sandra would be Abraham Desta, who's virtual, and then Frank Moneymaker. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sandra Maresca, and I'm here today as a Hillsborough County taxpayer to ask you to vote no on the proposed Rays Stadium agreement. This isn't about whether I like baseball. It isn't about whether I want the Rays to remain in Tampa Bay. It's about whether this is an appropriate use of public money and whether the taxpayers of Hillsborough County are being asked to take on too much risk. We are talking about a $2.3 billion project with hundreds of millions of dollars in public funding. This county's proposed contribution is approximately $796 million, including money connected to the community investment tax and tourism-related revenues. Before taxpayers commit this kind of money, I believe we should have complete transparency about the costs, the assumptions behind the financing, the risks, and exactly what the taxpayers receive in return. Commissioner Wallstall has constantly raised those questions. He opposed the earlier MOU in part because he believed commissioners did not have enough financial information to make an informed decision. I appreciate that he is willing to ask difficult questions rather than simply accept that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we have to approve immediately. If this project is truly such a tremendous investment for Hillsborough County, it should be able to withstand rigorous scrutiny. Please don't ask taxpayers to take the risk simply because there is pressure to meet a construction timeline. I am asking you to put the interest of Hillsborough County taxpayers first, and specifically, I want to thank Commissioner Westall for continuing to demand. Please vote no.
Appreciate the comments. Abraham Desta, who's virtual, followed by Frank Moneymaker and Catherine Corman. Is Abraham on the line?
Abraham is not checked in.
All right, thank you. Frank? No Frank? Okay. Catherine Corman? Is Catherine here? Okay, followed by Marianne Goodrum and then Patrick Bailey. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Corman. I'm a Florida native and resident of Hillsborough County for over 30 years. At a time when folks in our county are working full-time and still struggling to find affordable housing, they're struggling to afford groceries, they're struggling to afford gas and car insurance. I mean, it's $4 a gallon for unleaded. Are we kidding? I'm really dismayed that our political leaders are considering diverting funds towards a stadium that people need, and more importantly, they deserve solutions, not bread and circuses. The common counter to this is that a stadium and its mixed-use district will have jobs and tourist dollars brought in. At this point, you're all aware of what the data says, but I will emphasize that empirical studies have demonstrated time and again that the economic benefits provided by sports stadiums are overstated at best and temporary at the worst. We're living in a time as well when young people are consuming less alcohol than ever. They're spending less time and money that they don't have because a lot of them are underemployed on leisure and sporting activities, all of this more than ever. This stadium is not for their future. And speaking of the future, this deal could set a dangerous precedence for Florida's halls of public education. Today, the Rays are asking to displace the largest of Hillsborough College's campuses. But what of tomorrow? If a billion-dollar company like Amazon lusts after cheap public land, what's to stop them from displacing any of the 28 state colleges and their 70 campuses? Folks in this county are already talking about how Dale Mabry is going to be closed to build this stadium, while we're all aware that that's not the case, and a tremendous amount of care has been devoted by Hillsborough College's administration to mitigate the impact on operations. Perception is reality. It speaks to the current zeitgeist that people are more than willing to believe that public education is being sold out for the private interest of billionaires. We're also looking at the possibility of Amendment 3, which would be devastating to the CDD, the city and county's budget. We look and we see there is bipartisan opposition to this. I implore the board, consider our people and vote no.
Thank you, Ms. Corman. Marianne Goodrum, followed by Patrick Bailey, and then Sherry Allman, who's virtual. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Marianne Goodrum. I have lived in Hillsborough County for more than 40 years. It's nice to see you again, Commissioner Wurstall and Commissioner Myers. Glad to be at your town hall meetings. I'm here to speak against the Rays Stadium today for a very specific reason. I'm concerned about the property tax amendment and what will happen to our county services if it passes, which based on current polls, 75 to 65% are in favor thereof, so it looks like it's going to pass. People are hurting financially and they're looking for relief. But now, as leaders of Hillsborough County, you must plan for the future, for what the future of Hillsborough County will look like. Two quick anecdotes. I had an accident in 2020, bruised my spinal cord and broke a couple of bones. I was in pain and I could not move. EMS and a fire truck came within 5 minutes. The fireman picked me up, put me on a gurney. EMS took me to the hospital where I had surgery, or I might not be standing here in front of you today. Second, we live in a pretty quiet residential neighborhood in Riverview. About 3 years ago, someone was yelling a couple of doors down, and my husband went to see if someone needed help. A man who does not live in our area, who was high on who knows what, was running through the yards yelling. He tackled my husband and held him to the ground. Luckily, the neighbors called 911. The deputies came quickly, one of which was one of our former neighbors, Harrison Bajner, a sergeant with Hillsborough County, And fortunately, they rescued my husband and took this man off to get some help. That is what we need our county taxes to pay for. If this property tax amendment passes and you pass the funding for the Rays Stadium, will there be cuts to police, EMS, and fire rescue? Commissioner Myers, in your town hall meeting, you said there would be cuts. You didn't say where, but you said that there would have to be cuts. We needed EMS and the police, and they came right away. Please vote no.
Appreciate the comments. Patrick Bailey, Patrick here, followed by Sherry Allman, Jeffrey Herman, and then Vera Rudy, all virtual. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Patrick Bailey. First of all, I want to say as well, I love the Rays. I love baseball. No matter how many times I try to duplicate the cooking of a hot dog or sausage at home, it's always best at the stadium. There's just something about it. But what I don't agree with and support is our tax dollars paying for it. There were people up here who lied and said that, referenced the Battery up in Atlanta, for example, that it was an economic boom. They're losing $15 million a year from it. It's almost 10 years later. These are not going to be economic boom for Tampa. There are many people saying that have studied the Atlanta one that we should not be looking into doing this. The fact that we don't have all of the information, we don't have all of the facts. You guys got the papers days ago that you had to look through over. Not enough time to prepare for it. The Rays can afford to do this themselves. Why should we be putting our money that needs to go to our roads, it needs to go to our structures, or to our infrastructure? Why should we be putting that money towards billionaires and not towards helping the guys and the people that got you guys elected? Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Is Sherry Allman on the line?
Sherry has not checked in.
All right, thank you. How about Jeffrey Herman?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So starting off, first of all, I don't know how the Rays are getting a 139-year mixed lease on the mixed-use property when the agreement with the non-relocation only spans around 35 years with extensions on their end. That seems like the value of that property when it's improved for them to be able to maintain exclusive control for that 139 years, which spans past anybody who's alive today's lifetime, is a little bit flabbergasting that they're being provided that. And that's already on top of 40% taxpayer funding, not including the money coming from the state, which is also taxpayer money, can be looked at that way. So in addition to the value of the land, the county and city are having to pay around 40%, whereas the Las Vegas only had to pay around 19% for their state of that value. And I don't know that they got that sweetheart deal for that mixed-use development. Also speaking to that, some other people have purported about how much sales tax money is going to come back. Well, that's actually incorrect because the sales tax money, most of that money goes to the state. Yes, a little bit of that might come back, but most of that comes to the state and leaves. There's no sales tax money on commercial rental. There's no sales tax money on the apartment complexes. So as far as the residential, as far as commercial rental, none of that's going to be subject to the sales tax money. So when you're talking about $7 billion of sales tax money coming back, that's just not feasible that that's going to happen. In addition to all of that, there's a lot of other points as well. And first of all, why is the mixed use not separated from the stadium? I feel like the stadium value, the support from the taxpayer money could go down to match that 19%. MLB wants Tampa to have a team because it's the 11th largest television market in the country. The Las Vegas is number 40. So there's a vast difference.
Thank you,
and I
sir.
don't know how Tampa's getting a worse deal.
Appreciate your comments, Mr. Herman. Is Vera, looks like Rudy, RDY, virtual. Vera on the line?
He is not on the line.
All right, thank you. Got Ashley Herman, followed by Luca Maloro, and then James Van Herens. Is Ashley here? No, Ashley. Okay, how about Luca?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ashley's
I'm here.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Herman. I am a first-generation college graduate. Started at Hillsborough Community College and went on to earn a master's. I'm a mom of 2 girls, lifelong Floridian, and candidate for State House District 69, which covers Southeast Hillsborough. I've spent my career fighting for working families. and I'm fed up watching as so many of our elected officials hand off everything beautiful in Florida over to the wealthy and powerful. And now I see the stadium deal thrown together behind closed doors and rammed through in under a week. There's been a lot of promises made and no facts to back them up. Land given over from our community college should be a non-starter. We, the taxpayers, are being asked to fight millions we may never get back. As regular people here are struggling to keep the AC on, and Tallahassee has put this death pill out with Amendment 3, threatening to slash our county funding from property taxes. What's worse, we're not even getting a say. Public comment at the city and county where you have to have the luxury of free time on a weekday morning just to be heard is shameless. I wanted to be there in person, but my 1-year-old daughter is sick today. I hope you can hear me though. This is undemocratic, it's unfair, and the people behind this deal should be ashamed. Vote no and let the voters decide on something that's going to affect us all here in Tampa Bay for literal decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herman. Luca Maloro, is Luca on the line?
Luca has not checked in.
All right, thank you. James Van Herent, followed by Alejandro Noriega, and then Brennan Magliosi.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is James Van Herent, and it's a pleasure to be in front of you. I want to start out by saying thank you to all of you, to your staff, to the attorneys who spent countless times negotiating this deal, lost many sleepless nights and times with their family and friends. So I want to say thank you and fighting the good fight for the taxpayers. I also want to say that this project is in your hands, but we have faith in you. We've elected you to do these jobs. I mean, we are a representative democracy. We're not a direct democracy. Every decision that we make can't be on a ballot, and this deal is way too complex to expect everyday working people to have to take the time out of their day to work through every detail. So we thank you for that work. I speak about this project in 3 different ways: community, health, and education. When I talk about community, I talk about how baseball is not just a sport, it builds community. I have memories with my dad growing up going to baseball games. I was a Cub Scout, and our very first camping trip was actually sleeping on the turf at Tropicana Field and building that friendship or that community and love with each other, and just growing that through the game of baseball. And kids growing up learning the game and following sports and learning sportsmanships and teamwork and all that through sports, and the Rays are a big help with that aspect. When I speak about health, I'm a gentleman who's losing his vision. I'm visually impaired. In baseball, people don't like to talk about is a great mental health. It actually saves me money with therapy. I don't have to speak to a psychiatrist every day because I watch baseball and I can look at that and take my mind off of it for a little bit, and it's a big relief. So it's not just the tax. I know we talk about the money that we're losing, but we got to talk about the money we save as well. And when I talk about education, it also saved me from a tutor. I struggled in math growing up, and I had a teacher who understood that I love baseball, my love for the Rays, so he explained math and equations instead of like train A leaving station and train B meeting at where do they meet. I never understood that, and he explained it through baseball, through stealing, and how fast the pitcher has to deliver that ball. So please pass this deal.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming down. Alejandro Noriega, Brennan Magliosi, and then Tim Gulliver. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm just going to plain and simply say, pass this deal. It's been 20 years since we've been going through this saga. We need to get this deal done. I'm a true Rays fan through and through. As you see, I rep them. I understand where everyone's coming from with their criticisms and their skepticisms, but we need to put money into big projects in order to build our city. And Bill Carlson actually made a good point yesterday at the City Council that without vision and without spending big and doing big projects, we wouldn't have Disney World. We wouldn't have major investments that bring money to our city. To all the people who say they are Rays fans, I agree with you, but I don't see you driving 81 games like I do. I go to every 81 home games to the Trop and to this new stadium once it's approved. People say that they don't want to spend public money on stadiums or use the CIT tax. The CIT tax was created for stadiums to begin with, for Raymond James Stadium, and everyone had pushback. We don't want taxpayer dollars to build a stadium for the Bucks. We built it, and I don't see them complaining when we win Super Bowls or have concerts that everyone goes to every year. People said, don't give money to Water Street. Don't give billions of dollars to the Lightning and Jeff Vinnick. We built it. Nobody complains when we're winning 2 Stanley Cups back to back and we make the playoffs for 12 years in a row. Nobody complains. So to me, it's a good deal because, again, just take the aspect of sports out of it. It helps build an area that was never there before. It's building the college that hasn't had updated buildings since it opened in the 1970s. And yeah, it might be closing it a little bit and reducing it to size, but if they want to do that, that's the college's decision. That's their decision. They chose that part of the deal. If they want to do it, they can do it. It's building an area that people want to go to. I'm going to be honest. I go to the Bucks all the time. I go to Steinbrenner Field all the time. So if I can get all three, Rays, Steinbrenner, and the Bucks at the same place, I'm going to go, and I'm going to support it through and through. And I want to say thank you for your time. Hopefully you vote yes on this historical day. Thank you very much.
Please state your name for the record.
Oh, Alejandro Noriega, sorry.
All right, thank you, sir. Brennan Magliozzi, followed by Tim Gulliver, and then Roxy Lackman. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Brennan Trace Magliozzi, and I am convincing y'all to vote no on this. Because the reason why I'm saying this, because what if we don't have enough fans coming in to our the new stadium being built on Hillsborough College campus. And I don't want to hear them complaining at it being too loud because they're right across the street from the Buccaneers Stadium when the cannons start firing off for touchdowns and first downs. And I'm kind of not happy. I prefer the Rays to stay in St. Pete. I have access to getting on buses, getting on Ford, and I'm there. If it moves to Tampa, it's going to be really hard. And I yell back, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you. Tim Gulliver, is Tim here? Followed by Roxy Lackman, who's virtual, and then Mary Beth Anglin. Good morning.
Good morning. A great morning, and I tell you, the Rays have a great spirit. You guys are an awesome council. And I tell you what, every person in this county, I'm so grateful every day. I was married 27 years. Loved the lady. She couldn't keep a budget. She's now, I lost her, okay? No, it's all right to a guy in Texas. It happens. But I loved her a lot. Still do. But how you vote for the Rays, this new stadium, for the taxpayers, and even considering the fans. Well, I don't love y'all that much. But I love you guys. Now, that's a fact. She was close, but she couldn't hold a budget. I was broke for 27 years. Don't like living that way. Makes it hard on maintenance. Makes it hard on every soul. And we're in this together, guys. God bless.
And please state your name.
Tim Gulliver.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Roxy Lackman, virtual, followed by Mary Beth Anglin and Matt McKeithen. Is Roxy on the line?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Roxy Lackman. I am a proud fourth-generation Floridian, and I can take no pride in this deal. This proposal should, at the very least, be tabled until the Florida state property tax vote is complete. This is a nonpartisan sentiment. Both sides of the aisle agree. Taxpayers are saying no on today's vote. I implore our commissioners to do the same. I, too, ran an AI search, and I found that when the numbers on taxpayer-funded stadiums are broken down, this will not be the economic boon you promised. For example, Cincinnati's taxpayer-built Paycor Stadium, built in 2000, for the Bengals, comprised 16.4% of Cincinnati city budget by 2011, covering stadium debt and maintenance bills. Hospital funding and county jobs were cut to handle the economic shortfall. You and another speaker noted Atlanta's Cobb County Battery as a success story. Economics economists disagree with you. They say that revenue generated near a stadium is merely displaced profits from people who are spending money near a stadium that they would normally spend elsewhere. But let's say they're wrong, and revenue that the stadium is generating is paying back the initial $400 million cost of Atlanta's battery, which is only about half of what our proposed outlay is. They are currently making $22 million a year in taxable revenue. So dollar for dollar, that's about 20 years that it will take them to pay back that $400 million, which translates to 45 years for us to pay this money back. Never mind the 2+ decades lost in infrastructure projects that are not pursued because money is tied up in the stadium. And finally, who can respect a municipality that so readily shuts down its only youth detention center to make way for a stadium? Scattering our local children across the state and away from their families for rehabilitation is heartless. It is an appalling embarrassment that we're even considering the possibility of tearing down our only youth detention center for a stadium. Where are the plans to replace this facility? We must get our human rights, health in order, and our infrastructure in order before we make way for more sports.
Next three speakers, Mary Beth Anglin, followed by Matt McKeithen and Amy Josephson. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mary Beth Anglin. I'm the proud president and CEO of the West Tampa Chamber of Commerce. The West Tampa Chamber strongly supports the Tampa Bay Rays Stadium and the related development in Drew Park in West Tampa. We believe this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to keep the Rays here in Tampa Bay while creating meaningful, long-term investment in our community. This project can create thousands of jobs, attract significant private investment, generate economic activity, and create new opportunities for residents and businesses throughout our region. Drew Park and West Tampa are positioned to benefit from an investment of this magnitude. It can serve as a catalyst for continued revitalization, strengthen local businesses, and create opportunities for generations to come. We also strongly support Hillsborough College being the central part of this investment. Education and workforce development must advance alongside economic development so local residents are prepared to take advantage of these new opportunities this deal will bring. On behalf of the West Tampa Chamber, we encourage the Board of County Commissioners to move forward with confidence and seize this historic opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Anglin. Matt McKeithen, followed by Amy Josephson and Kurt Thorson. Good morning.
Hello, my name is Matt McKeithen, and I'm against this proposal. I think the use of taxpayer money should be used for our roads and infrastructure and to improve our land and our roads. We don't need taxpayer money being used as stadium. We need our taxpayer money being used for our roads, to improve the roads. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Amy Josephson? No, Amy. Kurt Thorson? Kurt here. Followed by Douglas Batista. Good morning.
My name's Kurt Thorson. I'd like to introduce you to Lisa Cupid, right there. She is the current Cobb County Council or Commission Chair. Back in 2013, she was the lone no vote on the battery public funding. Today, 13 years later, it is her job as chair to supervise that property and that development. And she has stated on the record publicly that it's doing quite well. It's an economic success. In fact, her words are, it is an economic juggernaut. And that's why this development is a model. Plano, Texas did this in a week. They're doing it in Vegas. They're going to do it in Chicago. They're going to do it in Cleveland. They're doing it in several places in California. This project is supported by police, fire. So those saying that they're going to be fired, no, they're supporting it. They were there yesterday supporting it. The Hotels and Lodging Association, which by the way mentioned that the hockey arena we have here can no longer support the Women's Final Four because it's not big enough now. This baseball stadium certainly hosts a lot more than what the hockey arena can, thus more events for the area, more income for the area. West Shore Alliance, West Tampa Chamber of Commerce, Tampa Bay Business Chamber, Hillsborough College, and the lovely New York Yankees even support this too when they're going to be right next door. Numerous CRAs support this, church organizations support this. Earlier today, on all the monitors, there was a rundown of the money going into each and every aspect, schools, infrastructure, potholes, those getting it fixed, and those don't go away. Oakland still has those. Montreal still has those too. Did they automatically just get fixed when their teams left? They did not. But a lot of places such as Cobb County, Las Vegas, they're seeing improvements like they've never seen before because they have cash flow like they've never seen before. All these people saying that it's not a proven model, the numbers were there. The numbers were there, and the county, the county chair, Lisa Cupid, is on the record saying this is amazing.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Douglas Batista, followed by Christopher Cunningham and J.P. Peterson. Good morning, sir.
Douglas Batista. Thank you for commissioners. Again, my name is Doug Batista. For my career, I'm a chief HR officer with extensive experience in labor force dynamics. In the U.S., we're losing about 16,000 net jobs per month, about $200,000 annually, due to AI displacement. And that includes jobs that are being created out of AI. And that's as a fact by a recent study by Goldman Sachs. The jobs that are being displaced are those with routine, repetitive, administrative tasks, such as accountants, computer programmers, testers, customer service, and entry-level roles. I'm experiencing this same dynamic with my current employer as I'm a chief HR officer for a global technology company. 200,000 jobs across the U.S. aren't a lot, but the AI impact is only expected to accelerate into the tens of millions, according to the McKinsey Global Institute. Now, if you don't believe that, there's another warning sign. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics report that voluntary employee turnover has collapsed to 13%, down from 25% 3 years ago. This isn't because workers are suddenly more satisfied with their jobs. Rather, employees are staying as a direct consequence of fewer job opportunities. And again, I'm seeing the same dynamic of lower turnover in my current employer. And if you don't believe that, maybe you can believe Bill Gates. On Wednesday, he published an article on AI disruption. It was picked up in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times. Quote from Bill Gates: "We have to think now about how to reduce job losses so that everyone can share in the prosperity that AI creates. Waiting until people are already displaced or underemployed will be too late." The Ray Stadium and mixed-use development project represents job opportunities for Tampa Bay workforce in a time of AI displacement. Jobs that provide financial stability for working families that can generate consumer spending to our local businesses, and spending that generates tax dollars for our region. So I ask the commission here today to vote yes for the Raise project, and yes for job generation in our region.
Thank you, Mr. Batista. Christopher Cunningham, followed by J.P. Peterson, and then Bishop Michelle Patty. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, commissioners. My name is Christopher Cunningham. I'm a Tampa resident, local business owner, own Dry 24 Water Restoration and True Value America in North Tampa, part of Gwen Myers District. I'm here to support the Raise deal. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. I think you guys as Hillsborough County Commissioners have an opportunity to do something great for Hillsborough County and for the future. Small businesses represent 43.5% of America's GDP. So one thing that I do hope you guys advocate for is small business participation. I have had an opportunity to do services and products with Hillsborough County, and it's helped my business tremendously. I want to thank President Atwater and then also President Kim Babby for coming out and speaking to the community and not overlooking small businesses and small groups. So I thank you and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. J.P. Peterson, followed by Bishop Michelle Patty and Bob Morrison. Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of the commissioners here and especially Mr. Hagan for your leadership on this. I know this is a very tough issue. It is a lot of money, but I feel it's a worthy investment in our community. I'm not an economist, but I was in Atlanta when the whole battery deal went down. I've heard a lot of fudgy numbers today about that deal. I know this. They went net positive in 10 years, and they're bringing in almost double what their debt service is. It's a fantastic deal, and it's a model that we should really follow, not only for the economic benefits, but also for baseball. The Braves used that money to pour it into their payroll, which is exactly what the Rays are planning to do. That means we can keep our great players like Junior Caminero. We don't have to watch them walk out the door anymore. That means we can be big boys when it comes to payroll and be able to win a World Series like hopefully we will do in the very near future. That's what baseball, and baseball, what it means to our community. I was able to take my kids to a World Series game in 2008. I will never forget that. I hear countless stories from fans that call into our show and are part of our show all the time. that talk about what baseball means to them and bringing a community together. This area will bring us together. We are so isolated. This will bring the community together. It's desperately needed for that. And finally, I want to talk about this ownership group. From the very beginning of this process, they have done, and you guys know this, they have listened to you, and you guys have done a great job holding their feet to the fire. And they have given, and they have given. They're going to put in $1.4 billion of private investment just for the community. That doesn't go to them. That goes to construction folks. That goes to hardworking people here who are hurting, who are going to benefit by this. So I ask you today to be bold. Fortune favors the bold. Do something that is going to leave a legacy for your kids, my kids, and the city of Tampa for generations to come. And if you don't do it, the Rays are going down the road to Orlando. Don't be the vote that sends their money and this incredible investment down the road to Orlando and our beloved baseball team.
And please state your name. State your name for the record.
J.P. Peterson.
Thanks. Bishop Michelle Patty. She here, followed by Bob Morrison and Stephen Gerhard, who's virtual.
Good morning. My name is Bishop Michelle B. Patty. I was born here in the city of Tampa 73 years ago. I'm a homeowner and a taxpayer. I live in Brandon, Florida. On yesterday, there were 3 young men that committed a heinous crime by attacking a homeless man, beat him near to death out of boredom. They say they were bored. Now just think that if they had a part of apprenticeship program, we're talking about the Rays bringing jobs. Apprenticeship programs will actually help these same young men become entrepreneurs. How many more jobs they would be able to create? But right now, their future, because they're talking about adjudicating them as adults. So their lives are over. As a mother, as a grandmother who stand here, who know the fact about how my children was killed. So I'm looking at it, what price do we put on our children? What price do we put on children having a future? So I'm definitely in support of the Rays. It's a whole lot more than selling popcorns, people talking about minimum wage. Well, I'd rather for a person to receive minimum wage than to be out here selling fentanyl. I'd rather for a person to receive minimum wage than to be out here gangbanging or killing. Are you all in touch with what's going on today in this county with our young people? They're bored to death because nobody is reaching out to help them, to support them. We're up here bickering about dollars. I'm standing here asking that we save lives. And with the Rays, it might seem simple, that it's not. But baseball, there's a lot of layers to being a stadium. You're talking about construction. You're talking about, even with the field, people that are in the field, they can become coaches. There's just so many things. The work in the front office. There's so many jobs that this would bring to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Patty. Appreciate the comments. Bob Morrison, followed by Stephen Gerard, which is virtual, and then our last speaker is James Ransom. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Bob Morrison. I'm here on behalf of the Hillsborough County Hotel and Lodging Association. First of all, my members represent about 92% of all hotel revenue generated in Hillsborough County. So as a result, my standing here on their behalf is for 3 purposes. Number 1, we were the entity that said to you, go forward and adopt the 6% on the tourist tax. Those hotel owners took that 1% that could have been part of their profit line to invest in this community and what the tourist development tax could deliver. Number 2, as I mentioned to City Council yesterday, one of the things that we've done is because we have skin in the game, because your formula suggests a significant check written from the tourist development tax. We did our own investigation. One of the things that we were concerned about was not to bastardize or in any way replicate facilities we already have. The announcement I shared yesterday with the City Council that we no longer are eligible for the Women's Final Four because benchmark is not large enough to meet their seating requirements, speaks to this particular development being unique and being positioned to fill a void that we have in our community. Ultimately, our message to you is we're concerned about how Visit Tampa Bay might fare in all of this, but we believe that working with county staff and the Rays, we can make sure we fund the economic engine to make sure that we are telling the story of this destination and bringing those destination dollars to our community.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Appreciate it. Is Stephen Gerard on the line?
Commissioners, my name is Stephen Gerhard. I am a resident of Hillsborough County. Today, I'm here to object to the use of public funds for a for-profit sports team. In the nearly definitive document, there are no guarantees that require the Rays to develop any minimum taxable use and no provisions to enforce it. Full stop. I ask all of the commissioners to hear that. There are construction guarantees, there are guarantees on cost overruns, but they do not have any requirements to produce any taxable land improvement. Today, HCC pays $0 in taxes. Tomorrow, the HCC campus will continue to pay $0. Without taxable development, the tax income remains the status quo. Without written guarantees, the burden to service the debt on the bonds truly lies with the citizens of Hillsborough County. In the surrounding development, if the surrounding development is developed, the CDD will take a disproportionate of shares of the revenues. Under the proposed third tier, and this is really, really important, I ask the commissioners to hear this, the district would receive 85% of the revenues. Under Florida law, community development districts are controlled by the landowner. That's Hillsborough College, and their benefactor, development partner, and tenant is the Rays. After 6 years, the Rays entity will take control of the CDD board. This is not government oversight as it has been presented. Sunshine laws require transparency, but not control. This is a creative additional revenue stream or cost offset programs for the Rays. Let's come back to the tiers. $650 million of assessed value is the top tier. The Rays have communicated nearly $7.5 billion in revenue of assessed value. That means that $6.85 billion, 85% of that tax income will be going to the district, a district that will be controlled by the Rays in 6 years, while the county takes home less than $100 million of projected total lifetime value from the property taxes.
Thank you, sir.
Why is there no cap? Why is this concept introduced?
James Ransom, the last speaker. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I've never been last at anything before, but today is my first time being last. First, let me, on behalf of the Tampa Organization of Black Affairs, I chair the Economic Development Committee. You've been receiving letters from us for many months, giving you the conditions that our organization would support the Rays ballpark development along with the mixed development and the Hillsborough College development. So let me just say right up front that the Tampa Organization of Black Affairs 100% supports the Rays ballpark project. And we wanted to thank also, I see Will Weatherford here, who's the chair of the trustee board at USF. They got the message when we talk about trying to have inclusion of Black-owned companies and including the Black community on building a new USF stadium. It wouldn't have happened without Will Weatherford and Rhea Law and Jay Stroman and the folks out there at USF. And we appreciate that because the top-down, bottom-up deal at that stadium includes businesses from our community that are qualified, ready, willing, and able to help build that university stadium. With the Rays project, we've talked with Mr. Babby many times about the same ideas, and we know that we're hearing that from you, from Commissioner Myers and many others, from Nye Young and the City of Tampa council members who voted yesterday. They hear us and they understand what's important to our community. We want to share the prosperity. We want to share in the quality of life that's going to come from a transformative project like this in so many ways. So while you are contemplating the public's concern about public trust and public funding, which is very important, not to unfulfilled commitments that we've made to those things that are important to the taxpayers other than for the baseball park. But we wanted to leave you with the idea that the staff has done a great job, city and county, board of county commissioners and the city council members. We appreciate the audience and for you making the right decision to support this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ransom. Okay, that closes public comment. We'll go into board discussion. Board members, I've worked on this for a few years, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. Before I make my remarks, though, I do want to thank Bonnie, Greg, Julia, Tom, Sam, and Eric Hart for all of their hard work on getting us here today. This has truly been a team effort, and we're fortunate to have the A-team on our side. They've worked around the clock, night and day, to get us here. I particularly want to thank Bonnie and Julia. I know it's been both mentally and physically extremely challenging and exhausting for them the last couple of months. There have been so many complex issues with this agreement, and many of them were contentious. However, throughout this process, they remain steadfast, meticulous, and unwavering in representing the county and protecting the taxpayers. So I can't thank them enough for all of your efforts. I also want to thank City Council Chair Alan Clendenin, Councilman Louis Vieira, Councilman Bill Carlson, and Councilwoman Naya Young for keeping an open mind and challenging the status quo throughout this process, and for recognizing what an enormous opportunity we have in front of us. Thank you for your leadership. I also want to personally thank our board members here who've kept an open mind and respected the process. As we know, there have been so many issues and moving parts over the last couple of months. Bonnie referred to it as a collaboration, and it most certainly is. But I think it's also fair to say that it's been a balancing act between county, city, Rays, and Hillsborough College's interest, and it hasn't necessarily been easy. Having 5 elections since I first began championing this issue back in 2010, I know what some board members have gone through and experienced throughout the process. It has been difficult. Since the first time that I said Tropicana Field was a failed business model and the team needs to be in Tampa to be successful, I faced election threats, intimidation, and character assassination, just for starters. And I know you have too. So thank you for your vigilance, for asking the tough questions, and for not being intimidated by the threats and discord. Over the years, I've wondered, what would I say if we ever got to the position of being able to discuss and hopefully approve a ballpark agreement? Well, after thoughtful consideration, I find myself asking 2 questions. Number 1, do we want Tampa to be a world-class community? And number 2, what side of history do you want to be on? Do you want to be a world-class community, or would you rather lose a generational opportunity, settle for the basics, and focus on blocking and tackling the basic issues? If you do not want to be a world-class community or do not see the value in this development project, this is a very easy decision for you. However, to be a world-class community requires vision, courage, bold leadership, and the ability to think big. If you're willing to do that, and if you want to be part of creating the largest and most transformative development in Hillsborough County's history, then today's vote should be a slam dunk. Most of the focus has been on the ballpark. If this were the typical old school stadium paradigm where agreements were centered solely on publicly financing a facility like Raymond James Stadium, I would understand much of the criticism. However, this is not the case here. The ballpark is the catalyst for $8 to $10 billion privately funded development. But for the ballpark, the development doesn't occur and the property remains underutilized. To be a world-class community, you need professional sports teams, just like you need a thriving art scene, good schools, a strong workforce, among other factors. We are incredibly fortunate to be one of 30 regions that have Major League Baseball. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be another Oakland where they just lost their team to Las Vegas. The critic, and someone referenced this, the speaker earlier, the critics in Oakland were complaining about the same issue as our critics, including lack of infrastructure funding. Do we really believe that one additional pothole has been filled in Oakland since the team left? I know I don't. Dozens of cities have 1 or 2 professional sports teams, but to have 3 or 4 major sports teams in the same city is to be in rarefied air. Having 3 teams in Tampa and will elevate our community above most of our competitors. And having the ballpark directly across from Raymond James Stadium with a pedestrian bridge will create a professional sports hub. Not only will we be one of a select group of cities with 3 professional sports teams, but by creating the sports hub, if AI is correct, we'll be only the 6th city that has co-located their facilities, along with LA, Seattle, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Kansas City. And I'll give you one better than that. If AI is also correct, this will be the first development project in the country that has an entire college integrated with the ballpark and its catalytic development. AI said this development is a historic exception to the standard model. We've heard about live, work, play environments, but here we'll be creating the very first live, work, play, and learn environment surrounded by our Major League Baseball ballpark. I don't think that we've underscored enough what this means to Hillsborough College. And I know that's why Dr. Atwater is in full support and is here today. The learn element, which includes all the educational and career opportunities within the district from apprenticeships, internships, and career pipelines, truly makes this a unique development that will enormously benefit Hillsborough College. So having 3 professional sports teams will certainly give us a competitive advantage over our peer communities. However, if we lose a professional franchise, it will be a black eye on our community, negatively impact our quality of life, civic pride, and corporate recruitment. When C-level executives are considering relocating to another city and see a community cannot keep a professional team, it will most certainly have impact our job creation efforts, and our site selectors have told us such. Site selectors have also stated that one of our weaknesses is the lack of meaningful transit options. I can't say with certainty, but with this new ballpark that is the catalyst for a live, work, play, and learn district, and with the proximity to the airport, it will create the density that supports real transit options. I think we all, or at least most of us, recognize we live in one of the best cities and communities in the country. But without question, this mixed-use development will differentiate our community from our competitors and solidify our position as a world-class city. The second question I asked myself is, what side of history do you want to be on? 3, 5, 10 years from now, do you want to be responsible for not only the Rays Forever home, but for the generational project that's in front of us, the largest and most transformative development in Hillsborough County history? Or you want to be able to say, see that area over by Hillsborough College? I had a chance to be a part of something special, but chose to think small and major in the minors, to let Drew Park remain blighted, and to have the Rays leave town. I know which side of history I want to be on. Either way, make no mistake, there is a cost of doing nothing. For those who criticize our upfront investment, the cost of our investment will pale in comparison to the enormous cost of losing this extraordinary development. What is the cost of doing nothing? For starters, we'll lose a baseball team. In a perfect world, ballparks and stadiums would be 100% privately financed. I couldn't agree more. But here's the news flash. We don't live in a perfect world or in a static environment. It doesn't matter if we're talking MLB, NFL, NHL, or the NFL. Cities and communities always have and always will roll out the red carpet to poach a team. The Rays are no different. Many communities covet the Rays and are chomping at the bit to have the opportunity to negotiate with the team. Most recently, the Oakland A's in baseball and the Arizona Coyotes in the NHL have relocated. Currently, Chicago Bears and Kansas City Chiefs are all but gone and leaving their respective states. Well, guess what? If this agreement fails, the Rays are next. Up until now, Commissioner Manfred has prevented the team from exploring leaving our market. If we deny this agreement, Commissioner Manfred will allow the team to begin negotiations with other cities. This isn't hyperbole or exaggeration. Commissioner Manfred has said so. Everywhere I go, nearly every day, whether it's Publix, the Y, Circle K, Abby's, Ivoroni's, O'Brien's, Yingling, the golf course, Lute's 4th of July parade, as recently as yesterday, hat tricks, folks come up to me and the message is the exact same. Get it done, bring the Rays to Tampa. So again, the cost of doing nothing, we lose a generational opportunity. That includes $8 to $10 billion in private sector investment in the district. To put that into perspective, this is larger than Water Street and Main and Midtown combined. Think about that. Drew Park remains an eyesore. I was on this board when we created the CRA back in 05, 06. That area was blighted then. 20 years later, it remains blighted, and there's no doubt that its condition will not improve in the foreseeable future if this project does not move forward. We'll also lose the additional state-funded transportation improvements in and around the area. We'll lose a brand new Hillsborough College campus and the educational and career opportunities for the students in the district. The quality of life for Rays fans is negatively impacted. There's an enormous loss of economic impact. I know when you start to talk numbers, there's always different studies, there's always a broad range. I've heard anywhere, when you include the direct and indirect impact, anywhere from 45 billion to 75 billion. I don't know where the actual number lands, but it's a big number. Loss of jobs, again, a range. I've heard anywhere from 7,000 to 12,000 jobs. Loss of sales tax revenue, tourist tax revenue, property tax revenue, and rent payments. Rent payments alone, as we heard, is going to be somewhere, I think, between 140 million and 200 million. Another important point that needs to be underscored, not talking about Drew Park, but the ballpark district itself is currently producing $0. Ask yourself why. We can deny this plan and continue producing absolutely nothing, or we can generate several revenue streams. We'll lose a robust community benefits agreement that will be used to address needed infrastructure and improve our residents' quality of life, such as fire rescue needs, parks, African American Museum, among others. And also something, and my good friend J.P. Peterson mentioned this earlier, something that's driven me throughout the 17 years that I've been on this quest. I want this generation and future generation of kids and families to create memories of the ballpark, just like I was able to do with my dad and have been able to do with my kids, Jake and Elizabeth, just like thousands of other kids and families have been able to do in Tampa. If you do not have those memories, it's hard to explain what it means, but it's priceless, and I want to pay that forward. Board members, we have an incredibly rare opportunity in front of us. I know one that I haven't faced in my time on this board. In closing, is this deal perfect? No. No deal is. And I think it's fair to say both sides wish the deal were a little bit better, but that's always going to be the case. One thing is clear, however. The team has significantly compromised on several deal points, notably increasing their investment from a 50-50 split to where the team is now covering 62% of the ballpark construction, plus all cost overruns. Again, I ask myself, what side of history do I want to be on? And I just ask board members, when you cast your vote, to be courageous, bold, and think big. Before I make a motion, I do want to ask Julia a couple of questions because it came up during public comment regarding board members' comments in the past on the ability to utilize CIT dollars for stadium financing. Two questions. I know in the past there was discussion about preventing a CIT from being able to be used toward the ballpark. Was there a prohibition either in the ordinance or in the ballot language that prevents CIT stadium financing?
Thank you. I know this question was asked previous in these conversations, and as a result of that question, I obtained 2 separate outside counsel opinions on that particular issue, as well as reviewed many of the items myself as I was not here at the time. Based on those 2 legal opinions and my review, there was no prohibition specifically set forth in the ordinance which adopted the CIT that went to referendum on the use of the CIT funds for a new professional sports facility. I know that conversation was discussed, but it was never implemented into that ordinance. Therefore, it is my opinion, based upon all the other opinions that I've received, that we can proceed forward with this deal under the auspices of using CIT for a new professional sport.
I know from time to time we hear the term voter intent. Did they take a look at that too?
Yes, the second opinion that we received was from an election law expert from Carleton Field and indicated that the concept of voter intent did not create an issue as it related to the use of funds.
Okay, so just want to get that on the record. And then the other issues was regarding my comments back in 2024 on the CIT. For those of you that recall, at that time, the previous ownership group had selected St. Pete for their forever home. So at that time, we all felt and believed there would never be another new stadium or ballpark in Hillsborough County. So that's the reason why I had absolutely no problem saying, yeah, I don't have any issue with prohibiting CIT dollars going toward a new ballpark or stadium. Right or wrong, as we just heard from the county attorney, that provision was never included in the ordinance or ballot language, and circumstances changed. So I just wanted to address that. Okay, I'm going to pass the gavel now to the vice chair, and I want to make a motion to approve the development and funding agreement, the guarantee, and the team non-relocation agreement in substantial forms presented, and allow the county attorney to conform all the documents, including the City of Tampa approved documents, and correct any scrivener's errors. And I know that currently, regarding the community benefits agreement, that it's, I guess, left blank. There's been discussion, I know, amongst staff. I know it's my understanding that I believe and correct me if I'm wrong, but over in St. Pete, that CBA was, I think, $50 million in that time frame. So I'm going to include in the motion that the community benefits agreement is $50 million, and I guess it's already included a 65%, 65-35 split, with the county getting 65, city getting 35. Is that correct?
That is correct. And in fact, the city council yesterday, when they took their action, part of their action was to have the county commission be the final place within the body of the document, the final number number for the CRC, community benefits agreement, with that split being in place. So that was left up to the county commission to determine.
Okay, and then I know the actual CBA will come back to us very soon, but I just want to include that along with the motion that there's an expectation of a timing mechanism where investments in meaningful community benefits begin immediately and are not backloaded. So that's my motion.
Second.
Pass the gavel to the vice chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for making my remarks briefer, because you managed to cover a lot of very important points. I've been relatively quiet about this, actually, and not spoken a whole lot in public, because I really have wanted to allow this process to take its course. And I really wanted to give the county administrator and the county attorney the maximum leverage possible to negotiate the best possible deal that they could for the public and for the taxpayers. And when I voted for the original MOU, it was my hope, and I've told this to them privately, and I've said this to anyone that's asked me, it's been my hope that they could negotiate knowing that, at least in my case, I didn't view this as simply a question of whether or not I wanted the raise to stay. I believe my responsibility has been to determine whether Hillsborough County could negotiate an agreement that protected taxpayers and created enough long-term public value to justify the investment. I made it very clear at the time I voted for the MOU and privately with our negotiators that I was not prepared to support a deal at any price, but that I would like to support a deal if we could come to the right conclusions. I believe that the deal that has been negotiated is markedly better than the MOU that we voted on in May. And I want to just say a couple of things in particular that I think should be reiterated and pointed out again. The first is the issue related to the rent. The rent was not a part of the original discussion. It is now targeted at $4 million a year plus CPI increases, and our staff has estimated over the course of the 35 years, $200 million coming back to the county as a result of those rent payments. That is a substantial return on our original investment. The second piece of it that Commissioner Hagan mentioned, of course, is that the raise contribution has gone from 50% of the project to 62% of the project, a marked increase. And then, of course, the third major change that has occurred in the deal, and much of this is due to the work of Commissioner Miller, is the $100 million that the state DOT has targeted for the Lithia Pinecrest project. The reason that's important is because the Lithia Pinecrest project was guaranteed to come out of the CIT dollars. And our negotiators very deftly have included in the contract a provision that if somehow the state does not provide that money, we are not obligated to make the final payment of the CIT dollars to the raise. So that is a net savings of $100 million right off the top. Between the rent and that, you have a $300 million difference between what we're voting on today and what we discussed with the MOU back in May. There are a lot of things about this agreement that are good. There are some that are going to be challenging. It is a public-private partnership. For those that say that they don't want government doing everything, that they want to see us working together, this is a great example of what can happen when the public and the private and an educational institution come together. I was on the Tampa City Council when we did Water Street. And even though Water Street is a little smaller, there are a lot of similarities between the two projects. The biggest being that it involved a professional sports team, an educational institution, and a vision of a work, live, and play environment anchored by hotels and restaurants and office buildings and residential. What we have seen develop in the Water Street District is proof positive that this community is very enthusiastic about embracing these types of developments. The last time I checked, you can't get a dinner reservation down there on a Saturday night, and Midtown has been just as successful. So there's no reason to believe, with the tremendous population growth that we see in this region and the ability of so many people to meet this centralized location, that we can't hit a home run here as well, provided that we all work together to make it happen. The community benefits agreement is a really big, important part of that. If it's $50 million and the county gets 65% of that, that money can be put directly back into some of the neighborhoods surrounding the stadium district for improvements that have been needed for a long time. And for people that are skeptical about whether or not we should be using CIT, I can understand why there is a need and a desire to spend every available dollar on roads and fire stations and other immediate needs. These are very important priorities, and they're priorities that I share. The question before us, however, is whether making a finite investment today can substantially expand the county's economic and tax base for decades to come without compromising those essential responsibilities. The only way that we can fulfill our responsibilities is to keep our tax base up. And Commissioner Bowles, in our in our previous meetings, was able to establish that the 9 fire stations that are currently programmed to be paid for out of the CIT will not be affected by this deal. Privately, the thing that has given me the most agita has been the prospect of the property tax referendum passing in November. And when that originally came out, after we entered into the non-binding MOU, I sat here and was very blunt about the fact that the uncertainty created by that gave me a lot of pause. And I have been trying to work through that issue for the last couple of months. People, if they have talked to me privately, have definitely found out that that's a huge area of concern for me. But here is the fact of the property tax referendum. If it passes, it is going to force this community to look for deals exactly like this one in order to preserve our tax base. The property tax referendum, more than anything else, it does have a small effect on commercial, but its major effect is going to be on residentially homesteaded properties. This is exactly the kind of project that we need in order to mitigate that. And this project has been specifically designed so that, as you saw, almost everything in it falls outside of what is going to be affected by that referendum. There will be a small reduction in what some of the commercial tenants might pay in taxes, but the vast majority of this is exactly the type of ad valorem tax that we are going to need in order to keep our tax base up. It's a very, very critical point about this. There are also a lot of ancillary benefits that aren't even being taken into account. We talked a little bit about sales tax that'll go both to us locally and to the state. We didn't really talk about the additional bed taxes that will be created by the hotels. But there's also the rental car fees that are going to be needed by the airport to pay for the airside D construction. The airside D construction is bonded based on rental car fees and airline user fees. So the proximity of this development to the airport will make a real difference on the airport's bottom line. And the airport does not get any property taxes in order to subsidize its operation. I want to finally talk for just a moment about transit, because Commissioner Hagan mentioned it, but I think it's really important to put something into some perspective here. We have had a lot of stops and starts on transit proposals in the last 10 years in this community, and people are very, very tired and exhausted by the roller coaster that we have been on. We had Alt for Transportation that was thrown out by the Supreme Court. We had Go Hillsborough that almost passed. We lost high-speed rail back in 2010. At every point when we feel like we're starting to get ahead to address our congestion issues, we have found ourselves stymied. I want to say to the transit activists in this community, this is the moment to restart the conversation. This isn't the end of the conversation. This is the beginning of the conversation. This development is right by the airport. The airport has built out a people mover that is capable of being extended. FDOT owns property on Cypress that is directly contiguous to I-275 and all of that right-of-way, and that includes the newly constructed Howard Franklin Bridge that has a transit envelope that is both provided and strong enough to actually handle whether it be rail or direct buses or look, we're at a point now where we're on the verge of self-driving cars and the airport's already looking at EV toll technology. The sky is literally the limit on this. But this development is going to be the catalyst for the discussion. It is strategically placed in such an area that it cannot help but be the final piece that unites the West Shore District, Midtown, Downtown, Ybor City, and where Brightline will ultimately come in. It's a very, very exciting prospect for the future. It is my belief that if this proposal is voted down, You will not see any sort of momentum toward a transit solution in this community anytime soon. If it's voted up, the conversations start tomorrow. The community benefit agreement gives us an opportunity to talk about Drew Park and West Tampa in a whole new way and put resources into those neighborhoods. And one of the things I plan on doing is going into the next MPO meeting and making some motions to get some of the planning started so that we can actually look at what is the best practice for dealing with the area around the stadium. And I look forward, it's in my district, of dealing with the neighborhood and commercial interests in the area to make sure that we plan this in a thoughtful, methodical, and well thought out way. I want to end by talking about some of the intangibles related to this project. Right now, the Tampa Bay Rays have the best record in baseball, or at least I know they do in the American League. We are 30 days or 30 games away, I think, from the playoffs. Maybe we'll even go beyond the playoffs. Whether it happens this year or it happens next year, I'm very confident it will happen one day. We've shown that we can win championships in this community. And when we do, and the network television cameras pan over Hillsborough County, and they look out over the sun setting over the bay, and a worldwide television audience sees this community, you know what they're gonna say to themselves? That's the place I wanna be. That's the place I wanna live. That's the place I wanna visit. That's the place I wanna open my business. That's the place I wanna raise my family. And to Commissioner Hagan's earlier point, this is our moment to decide what kind of community we want to be. I want to be a #1 community. I want to be a leading community. I want this to be a community that has 3 professional sports because we're able to exist in the top tier of cities and counties in this country. I finally want to just say a word about a good friend of mine, Pat Frank, who is a former county commissioner, former clerk of the court, former state senator. She's 96 years old. She fell and she's in the hospital and she's recovering. And I haven't had a chance to talk to her about this particular issue, but she follows things very avidly. And I've been reminded in getting ready for these remarks about something that she once said to me, and I wanted to share it. When she was on the Board of County Commissioners, and I believe she served with Commissioner Hagan, she would get annoyed sometimes because people would confuse her with Commissioner Jan Platt. And she didn't get annoyed because she didn't like Jan Platt. She got annoyed because Jan Platt's nickname was Commissioner No. And Pat told me that she didn't like being confused with someone that was Commissioner No, because sometimes, most of the time, the courageous vote is the yes vote. And today, I believe that the courageous vote is the yes vote, but I also think it's the right vote, because I think it's the vote that believes in the future of this community, in the future of this region, in the future of this county, and in all of our collective future. So that's where I am on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next in the queue is Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. You're recognized.
There it is. Thank you. So I'm a countywide commissioner, and I've been all over this county. We are one of the largest counties in the nation. We're actually about the size of 11 states, I believe. And the supermajority of the people that I have talked to have said, yes, they love baseball, but they just do not want to pay for a stadium. And that is really what I've heard all over this county. And again, I said supermajority. There are a few, but supermajority actually do not want to pay for this stadium. And also, there was mention of the CIT tax renewal in 2024. There was no mention of the community stadium. So I believe when the taxpayers went and when they voted for that, because there was no mention of it, it wasn't there. I don't believe they really believed they were going to be using those funds to build a stadium. And also, so that CIT money, there's so many projects that we need done right now that there's a long list of that I know from my office and being all over this county that, you know, we're working very hard to get those roads fixed, get our infrastructure, roads paved, not only just potholes, but getting roads paved and so many other things in our infrastructure. And to use this CIT money for this, I believe is wrong. I don't believe the taxpayers meant when they voted for it to be used for this. And also, this would mean that many of these hardworking families would have to, that are going through so many things right now, so that, for example, their streets are flooding, and to use this money for a stadium would mean these projects would be moved down the list, and then to have to tell those families that have been waiting and asking where are they on the list right now to get these roads fixed, the projects, drains to stop the flooding. I mean, this is very irresponsible use of taxpayer dollars, I believe. And also the fact that you're talking about using reserves, our reserves, $103 million of our reserves is extremely irresponsible. And the fact we're using this disaster recovery money, we know that we live in a hurricane zone and we're talking about using our reserves to build a stadium. An entertainment business is just unbelievable that we're even discussing this, to use our reserves for this when we know we live in a hurricane zone, and God forbid we had more than one emergency come up at one time. And we know what it took before, you know, to take care of the disaster that happened here before during the hurricane. And so, you know, there's such a long list of things I could keep going on about. Also, for example, borrowing money to build also is very irresponsible. I know we're talking about the bond ratings a lot and making sure that we keep, you know, a good rating for that. And so there's just so many different things, you know, I could keep going on about, but this money is not just about taking from a department or this department or a budget and just numbers. This is about the people of Hillsborough County and their money. It's their hard-earned taxpayer dollars that is being used here. And so I believe that's would be very irresponsible to vote yes on this, to approve this project. And again, most people love baseball, but they just do not want to spend their hard-earned taxpayer dollars on building a stadium. Thank you.
Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today is about closing the deal. In baseball, the seventh inning, the manager brings in the closer. And our closer is Bonnie Wise and Julia Mandel. But in baseball, it's only one. That's to save the game. And you all have saved this county by allowing yourselves and to give up your time to negotiate, seriously to negotiate, to bring us a deal. And to you, Mr. Chair, I thought you was going to say and end up saying from the late, great Sam Cooke, a change is going to come. So you were worried about what you were going to say, but that would have been the most appropriate to say, but you still can say that at the end. But I want us to be clear that our county administrator and our county attorney, they gathered themselves around a team, and they sent everyone out to the bases and into the infield to make this deal work for us. I'm honored and pleased, and Bonnie, I've told you and Julia both, I thank you all for what you all have done, the sacrifices you all have made to get us to this point. We compromised. Ken Babby, please stand. I know you just walked back in the room. You didn't get everything you wanted, and you can smile, but you got to move forward when we vote today. You can take your seat now. Okay? But this is what collaboration is all about. I'm born, raised in West Tampa, right through Drew Park. Remember when HCC was first being built on the Del Mabry campus? Dr. Atwater, stand, come to the mic, because you've been giving your 3 closing statements all over the news in that City Hall on yesterday. I want you to share with our constituents what you shared with them yesterday. Why the 3 main points of why you're on board with this?
Well, first of all, Ken Atwater, president of Hillsborough College. And I've said this before, it is a generational opportunity for the college. And I talked about 3 buckets that are really important to us. First and foremost, facility improvement is off the chart. I don't even know how to describe it. Even while I was talking yesterday, we got a report from our president at Del Mabry that our elevator wasn't working again, and we just spent $400,000 to repair it. And it's not working again. So facility improvement is great. The next thing that we focused on was workforce development. The opportunity for enhancement of improving our workforce development effort is going to be tremendous with this partnership. And the last bucket is partnership. We focus on community. We had community in our name so long, and we just recently changed. The Rays have really shown to us that they are investing in this community. And I said that we are community focused, and by being community focused with a community investment, what greater partnership could you ask for? Those are 3 buckets I talked about. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask my friend Bob Morrison, would you come back to the mic? But you got to speed up, Bob. You're walking slow. I don't want the chair to looking at me. Come on, Bob, speed up. Could you repeat to us again of your concerns regarding Visit Tampa Bay? Thank you.
Bob Morrison, representing Hillsborough County Hotel and Lodging Association. Our concern is that Visit Tampa Bay is the engine that drives the revenue that allows us to be able to have a tourist development tax fund. Our belief is that as working with staff and with the Rays, we believe we're going to be able to ensure that Visit Tampa Bay is positioned to be able to do the job it needs to be able to deliver the resources and the dollars that needed to tell the story of this destination.
Thank you so much. Did we all get that, Bonnie? Julia, as Chair always say, did you get that, Bonnie? Did you get? Oh, we have it. And the reason I wanted Bob to come back up is because Visit Tampa Bay does so much here in marketing and bringing so much here to our county in our tourist development tax that every time we have something, I mean, the last 2 years, it's just been overflowing with so many visitors here. And it's a great part because of what Visit Tampa Bay does. And I want to make sure as a commissioner that we take care of them to make sure there are no layoffs, et cetera, with Visit Tampa Bay. Did you get that, Stephanie? That's all you know in your head. Okay, you got it. And I know Ken heard it. But when we think of the economic impact that the Rays would bring here, we won't see it tomorrow. We won't see it in the next 5 years. But 10 and beyond, we would be so ever grateful of having the Rays baseball team here in Tampa. And just yesterday, my mother turned 101 years old. God bless. Yes, thank you all. But the point I was telling her, Mom, I have a 9 o'clock. She asked me, you off tomorrow? And I said, no, the chair called a special meeting. Friday, I usually chill some half a day. I said, but I'm going to talk about the Rays. We have to talk about the Rays. And she said to me, you know I watch them every time they come on, so I hope y'all be talking about we still watching them. I don't know what that meant to her, but I got what she was saying. And so with that being said, this is the opportunity for this community, when we think of the community benefits that the Rays would bring, and I talked to Ken Babby, and we went out to the community and held 2 community meetings. And we made some promises, and some promises we not able to keep when it comes to the affordable housing. But he shared with me Commissioner, we're going to build affordable housing throughout the city and the county. And we look at 60 to 80% of the AMI, area median income. That is going to help so many people who wants the same opportunities that I have today, is to own American dream, the largest asset that you can own to become a homeowner. And then we talked about all these jobs. And as I tell the people in District 3, you're always talking about jobs and affordable housing. This is the opportunity to make it happen, is with the raise. We're not gonna get another opportunity of what the raise are offering us. But today, it's a yes opportunity. And I'm thankful that the raise stopped here and decided to come across the bay here in Tampa, even to consider coming across the bay. And so the city voted yesterday, and I know they all tuned in to see how we gonna vote. And I'm ready to vote, and I end my comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next in the queue is Commissioner Whistle. You're recognized.
Thank you. Tom, I just have a couple of questions for you about the financials that I wanted you to confirm. And if HCTV could pull up the image that I provided to them. The $360 million of CIT funds can be used for general new infrastructure improvements, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I call everybody's attention to the screen. This is an image that's been provided on the public record multiple times, as early as August the 2nd, from a constituent in her 70s or 80s, I believe, that has had requests in for their community for 15 years to repair their sidewalks from the county. And because of our dereliction of duty to accomplish that, she has maimed her face more than one time. This was the pinnacle of one of her neighbors that provided this to us. Could that $360 million, they're still delayed until possibly next fiscal year to repair, could this money have gone to help fix this community's roads that also need to resurface, much less their sidewalks?
Commissioner, out of the project list that the board approved, about half of that project list was related to transportation improvements, which would include sidewalks, roads, bridges.
Thank you very much. This is just one of many harms. As you know, you sit on the board that decides the settlements for the trip and fall claims. I brought an item a couple of years ago where staff made clear that just over a couple-year period, we had paid out a couple $1 million of property taxes for these same trip and fall claims to avoid lawsuits. And I'd like to make it very clear to the community that that's just one of many harms and maiming that we could have prevented with this money due to the fact that we still have about a decade backlog despite our record-breaking investment over the past 4 years. This is money that was dedicated and promised and marketed to the community in 2024 that we would prioritize their needs over other people's wants. And any yes vote on that going towards anything but protecting the community is a continued dereliction of duty. The $103 million that is vaguely said county funds, that's our general funds, and most of it is property taxes. Is that correct?
Most of those dollars would likely come from general funds. There are multiple sources we would take a look at to be able to come up with the most appropriate sources. Most of those would be funded by general funds. General funds, about 80% of the revenue that goes into the general funds is property taxes.
So about 88, we'll just say $88 million of property taxes. Now, this same body of government also put forward a presentation to us that Amendment 3, if voted through, would just be, oh my gosh, devastating to the county. Actually, possibly from your own office, I might have put that together. So the same body of government that is saying that Amendment 3 passes, oh my God, we won't be able to fund critical resources, but here we are randomly finding almost $100 million of those same property taxes to subsidize the rich and the powerful. And that to me is just another testament of why you must vote yes on Amendment 3 in November. Now, over and over, we have said that the total burden from the county is going to be $796 million. But I would like to bring everyone's attention to Exhibit I of the agreement. Exhibit I is the bond payments that we have to pay back. Most of the general public does not understand what that means. There's a table on the back of it. But that total of Exhibit I over the 35 years of bonding to the tourist development tax, and I will be clear, all 7 of us unanimously voted in January to support this deal, and I continue to support this deal on the user fees that the team promised that they would be going after, and the alleged excess of CIT that I warned them multiple times did not exist, and now we are at that reality today. None of the $360 million of the yes vote in January that they claimed would be from alleged excess CIT is excess CIT, and I'll get to that in a minute and how that impacts us. That total amount of Exhibit I is $569 million. That $569 million is of interest that has not been clearly disclosed on the total amount. Is that correct, that the taxpayers are accountable for $569 million over a 35-year period?
That would be debt service, so that would be principal and interest, yes.
Okay, so I would just like to make very clear to the media that reporting that the total burden of the Hillsborough County taxpayers side of the deal is $796 million is grossly inaccurate. Exhibit I, if you would like to reference that. Now, of the $360 million, when we put the 2024 CIT renewal forward, I championed that alongside Commissioner Owen. I believe it might have been Commissioner Myers and Hagan that voted no on that. I can't recall, but I believe that's right on the final vote. We bucketed $596 million for public facilities, correct?
I believe that's correct, I believe. Commissioner, it was 597.
597. I was off by 1 million. I do apologize. Now, we clearly put in there and marketed to the community the list of projects that would be being eligible for that bucket of money, and more importantly about the 2024 CIT renewal, that another clause that Commissioner Owen and I put in there was that we continue to claim that we have a 20-year backlog on public safety improvements, including of the sidewalk that unfortunately injured the member of Farmington HOA that we saw on the screen earlier and unnecessarily maimed her. There was a list of projects and a list of money, and we accounted for all 15 years of money that's going to be available. That total amount is, let's call it $600 million. But out of that bucket of money, we're going to award $360 million for an unaccounted for expenditure, over 50% in a 4-year period, accounting for a 15-year total take, which means a couple of things. One is that we're having to steal from the future or steal from the other buckets of money over those first 4 years to make this money available. And it also means that since this $360 million to the raise, which again, I voted yes on in January, and I've proposed giving them all 35 years gross of the 6 cents of tourist development tax, which is $737 million confirmed by you at a previous meeting on a 3% compounding growth. Isn't it not true that one or more of these items must be impacted, delayed, or potentially canceled outright, since we only budgeted $597, but we're already expending $360 on an unknown source?
Commissioner, if we were to look at the CIT as a whole, the entire, there were certain buckets that were set up. The board could, through a public hearing process, go back and move things around and realign things. But out of the total, there was, I guess, $100 million that we know that's in the deal right now with Lithia Pinecrest. So that would offset the 360.
Okay.
We do have $60 million in contingency that was built in as one of the items. So that would take us down from, say, 260 down to $200 million.
Okay.
From that point, I guess there probably are a number of different things and different ways that could be made up. I went over some of those today. There would be revenues that would be generated by the new ballpark district. There would be eventually property taxes that would come out of that would come back to us. There would be sales tax that would be generated. We could look for alternate funding sources for some of the projects that are currently in the approved CIT. That might be impact fees. That could be grants and things of that nature. So I would say it's kind of fluid. We haven't really gotten into the new CIT yet, but we would look at other ways to make up for the amount that would be committed to the raise.
So out of those projects, just so everybody understands what's listed in there as community facilities, is the Raymond James Stadium, capital maintenance and repair, the Amalie Arena, capital maintenance and repair, now of course called the Bench Park International, the Sulphur Springs grocery store infrastructure line item that I had added in there to help me get to my yes vote, and then of course our pet resources shelter that's in dire need of expansion. Those are the line items that are likely going to be impacted in one way or another. Now you mentioned that we could potentially generate from property tax growth, but you have a chart up there where the county is only going to generate $87 million total over the 35-year period. Is that correct?
Right. That was something that was a tougher part of the negotiation with the team. Ultimately, what we resolved last week was the team was willing to increase the rent that they were going to be paying us over the 35-year period, which we thought was a good compromise because the additional rent that they came up with offset the amount that we were trying to get out of that property tax deal. So with the additional rent and the CPI, we were able to make up that difference.
But we're giving them $103 million, 88 we'll call it, of property taxes today, and we're only going to get over a 35-year period, 87 total back. If you just looked at those numbers and started calculating net present value, the taxpayers are at a significant delta. I mean, the total of $463 million, the 103 of local general funds and property taxes, plus the 360 CIT, if you calculated that out today with, let's call a very low 4% future value of growth year over year for 35 years, that money is worth $1.83 billion. And that's a very low conservative calculation. None of these financial metrics make up for these massive losses and disparities between the two numbers of how much the value of the money is today. Yes, it sounds nice to say we're going to get a couple $100 million back in lease, but none of it accounts for how much money that is worth 35 years from now. Now, I want to move on to, it was said that this is going to generate fire rescue needs, but this is going to be countywide property tax generation, a very de minimis $87 million over 35 years. The countywide property taxes can't be used to fund Hillsborough County Fire Rescue.
That's correct. They can fund emergency management, but typically it's the unincorporated area revenue that goes towards fire rescue operations.
Okay, I wanted to make that clear. It was also said that we guaranteed protections for fire rescue. How can you guarantee that from a future board? They could change the CIT list at any time. So what was the hardened protection? I didn't see that in there.
I don't know that we had any specific.
No specific, okay. Because it was said, and that's a big one in fire rescue, unfortunately, their emotional heartstring, like teachers, right? Their name likes to get used. When is the public hearing? It's in the documents, Ms. Mandel. Thank you so much. A legal requirement. How much time are we going to give and notice the general public instead of a secret fly-by-night special meeting? I've not had a special meeting in 4 years since I've been here. So when is, even when we had hurricanes, we didn't have special meetings. How much time are we going to have to advertise to the legally required public hearing to amend the interlocal agreement?
Let me make sure I understand your question. Amending an interlocal agreement, You mean in terms of holding the CIT public hearing? That will have to be noticed, my understanding, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, that public hearing will have to be noticed in the newspaper. That's the legal obligation. And so that period of time that takes to get it noticed, I don't think that there was a specific period of time that is required for when that notice goes in, but we will have to put it in the newspaper prior to what that schedule is. You will need to set that public hearing, so we will have a request from you to set the public hearing, then we'll go ahead and get that scheduled in the newspaper. So that would be the time frame of how that would go. And again, if Sam thinks I'm incorrect in what I just said, I'd love him to say so.
Sam, are you good?
Sam Hamilton, County Attorney's Office. Yeah, there's a local ordinance requirement for a public hearing to amend the CIT projects list. It's not the interlocal, it's the projects list.
Yeah, the project list.
Right.
And about how much time of notice is what I'm asking. Is there a requirement, or do we typically get?
No, it's typically 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
The ads in the paper and then the hearings 5 to 7 days after. It's not a state law requirement, it's the local CIT ordinance.
Well, Commissioner Cohen, you had promised that you wanted several public hearings at the last conversation, and I think that we should have ample time of promoting that to the community, and it should be one at 6 p.m., not at 9 a.m. when people struggle to get out of work. At a minimum, I'm perfectly fine. I'm fine with us giving the Rays, what's the life of the stadium? 50 years probably is a fair, okay. I'm fine giving them the entire 50 years, which would probably get them a north of $1 billion. I didn't scale it down past 2061 to make it more amenable to them. If they need our local tax dollars, at some point, somebody should introduce some type of royalty recruitment, because in the documents, the Rays are still demanding 100% revenue of all ticket sales for games and concerts, right?
The proposal that they sent to this, and this is not on the agreement in front of you, this would be on the use agreement, was to keep 100% of those revenues.
100% revenues of concessions, 100% revenues of parking. Why in the world would you guys sacrifice the naming rights of our building? All of these things should be made very clear, and in some way, some royalty program from concessions, parking, you could get huge royalties from. It's one of the most lucrative, are all ways that you should introduce a recoupment of the $360 million, so that at a minimum, the taxpayers don't feel just absolutely betrayed. Because, Commissioner Hagan, while I do agree with many of your points, and I do believe that the Rays should choose to come here if they don't want to stay in St. Petersburg, and they should choose to do it in the manner in which they originally approached us, which is in a user fee agreement and avoiding our local taxes, which we talked about several times, Mr. Babby, and I warned you guys that there was no such thing as an excess. I told you to stop advertising it. It was not a reality. You should introduce a royalty fee program to recoup this money in a short amount of time. What have we decided is the predictable break even for this project from the taxpayers that we talked about yesterday in our briefing? 20 years.
Oh, as far as the time frame, Commissioner?
Yeah.
I have not tried to calculate that. I wouldn't even try to calculate that.
I know.
Because it would be a very speculative.
Very speculative, much like the AECOM report that we said, because they were unable to, quote, obtain many of the necessary documents, such as detailed site plans, for them to make accurate decisions, so that everything in their document was also, quote, purely speculative. This agreement, of course, the city of Tampa voted yes, because almost all of the burden is shifted onto the unincorporated taxpayers of Hillsborough County. When we apportion the revenue structure for how we get our percentage of CIT, we base that off of population. That is how we get our money from the CIT. And the unincorporated Hillsborough represents the supermajority, 70% of the population, and they see to get a lowest amount of benefit from this. The Rays are right now averaging about 17,100 members per home game. I'm happy to be corrected on that number, but that's all of the reported data that I could find. That is 1% of Hillsborough County's population. And that's a far cry from how many Hillsborough County residents are actually the people attending those games. Even AECOM's less speculative part of their study said that even after the Rays get a bump of a new stadium and a semi-relocation, they will still, unfortunately, I'm not happy about this, this was their report, be in the bottom third of the MLB, averaging 20,500, slightly over 1% of the entire county's population. And it still won't be 100% of Hillsborough residents that are attending. This deal is an albatross. It is extremely one-sided to the unincorporated residents of Hillsborough County. And when we get sued, I won't litigate it here. We will be sued. That is just a simple reality. It doesn't matter. The legal advice that we received in 2018 from the private citizen group is that they would be sued. They felt fine. They got sued. They lost. In 2022, the Hillsborough County Attorney's Office felt good about the same introduction of the tax at the county's level. They got sued and they lost. And when the term expressio unius est exclusio alterius gets introduced, we will have a very real conversation, yes, about the legal precedents that long standing and exist in the state of Florida. This could be a good deal, and the TIF agreement, Mr. Chair, is good for the county, but the remainder of the local taxes, you cannot protect fire rescue. That's a myth. It shouldn't have ever been said. It can't be made a reality. And then the fact that we would use property taxes is just the greatest offense. Thank you very much for your time, for your consideration. I do wish the team luck. I actually happen to like very much the owners. I'm saddened that a little bit of dishonesty was introduced to me. The transparency for the financial agreements promise should have been kept, and much of this storm could have been avoided, and we would probably not have so much public outcry. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Not seeing anyone else in the queue, I can move on to my comments before calling the vote. Are we good? Okay. I'd first like to say powerful opening remarks, Chair Hagan. I'm not that I'm not surprised. It just was so well summarized. And as you go through your own remarks that you have prepared, you really just did a fantastic job of sort of bringing it all together. Harry, your excitement and energy and just vigor for this deal and what it means for the people that you represent in your district is just so heartwarming, and I really appreciated it. It is an honor to serve alongside of you all. I think I'm only junior to Chris, who came in a few months after me, and really your experience of you all serving on this board shows, and I appreciate it. I'd like to also thank Ms. Wise and Ms. Mandel, who have met with me countless times over the last several months. I know if they're meeting with me and they're meeting with all of our colleagues, it is, they and their staff have gone so far above and beyond in this very important negotiation, often taking meetings from vacations late in the evening, from their cars early in the morning. I think I've met with them at all times. I hear them making dinner while they're answering my questions. It's really been remarkable, their level of commitment. I also want everyone that's on their teams to know that they always gave credit, because it isn't about the two of them that you see sitting here. Every time I met with them, they would give credit to who was working on a particular item on their team, and made sure that we understood how diligently they were working as well behind the scenes. The dedication you show to this board and the people of Hillsborough County has not gone unnoticed, and I want to personally say thank you. I'd also like to thank Ken Babby and his entire Rays contract team that have been working on this deal. I've also heard that they've duked it out behind closed doors and managed to stay, and they were committed to working through these tough conversations and also took calls at all hours. I'm grateful to be here today, finally in this moment. As was mentioned earlier, in January, this board approved a renovation of Benchmark Arena, and I said at that time that the contract set the bar for what we should expect from any future partner. I meant it, and I've held this deal against that standard. a standard that all 7 of us agreed to and voted to support. That deal provided a private contribution of just 25%. Previous boards have required nothing, not a red cent, from a private entity, and as a result, we still became Champa Bay. The Rays are offering to fund 66% of a new public facility, a stadium that the county will own. And because a 25% contribution was enough for the Lightning, 62% has to be more than enough for the Rays. The team is putting in more than $1.3 billion, close to 2/3 of the cost, and covering every dollar of overrun. The county's share is capped at $796 million, $100 million less than what was on the table in May. Hillsborough County will own the ballpark, collect the rent, and hold the 35-year agreement that keeps the team here. I come from Plant City, where you don't buy the first strawberry in the row, and District 4 did not buy the first stadium deal either. We held out, and now Tallahassee is subsidizing a long-awaited road project. The deal that was handed in May is not the deal in front of me today. It's better in every way. The only named project in this agreement is Lithia Pinecrest. If Tallahassee doesn't deliver the $100 million it was fought hard for, the county pulls that same amount back out of the ballpark. That protection exists because we negotiated it. That protection is for the county taxpayers. Before a single public dollar moves, the Rays have to prove their financing is in place, and if they don't, the money stays where it is. President Reagan gave us 3 words for exactly this moment, and they've held up for 40 years. Trust but verify. I'll be voting yes today because I trust the terms are right, and because 115 acres that currently pays us nothing will finally start paying for the things we need and enjoy across this entire county. I see Commissioner Bowles has gotten in the queue. I will wait to call the vote at this time.
Sorry for that. I was writing and I thought I pushed the button and apparently it didn't hold. I appreciate all my fellow commissioners' comments. I think there's been a number of great points made by everyone here. And I think that, you know, over the last several months, I've been very consistent about how I was with my position that I wanted to look at this and keep an open mind about it. And to that point, I think I've done that. I do have a couple, excuse me, I do have a couple questions for these 2 nice ladies beside me. First, and Laura Lawson, I don't know if she's still here or not. She walked out. She brought up, Ms. Mandel, that the tax collector's office is going to be demolished and going to be destroyed and rebuilt because we just rebuilt it 10 years ago. And I believe, if I recall last night, you made a statement to that. Can we make that statement again to know that there's a protection there for that of sorts?
Yes. Right now, the tax collector's office is under a very long-term lease. I think the end date is 2063 as the end date. And I know that they have been also working with the college as it relates to that lease, who took that over. Right now, I am under no understanding, and I've had this conversation with the attorney that's representing the tax collector through this process, that there is any plans to demolish that building, that lease will be honored by the college. Now, certainly there may be conversations in the future about what could potentially happen, but that will be a robust discussion that will have to include the tax collectors and her staff, so that they can feel comfortable with whatever decision is made. But I also understand that there is no plans to even start to develop, that's in a phase 2 or phase 3, those properties as of today. So that's where that is at this moment, but they do have that long-term lease that will grant them the protections moving forward.
Thank you. And of course, we don't know, again, we've all talked about speculation, what happens in the future. We don't know, new governor, new legislature, anything could happen for that. To the same extent, there's this, there's been some articles in the papers and that have been circulating around about the Department of Juvenile Justice facility as well. You claimed last night to have some knowledge on that as well.
Yes.
Can you- And as I understand, this is something that's been in the works. And in fact, it even extends over to the center that's off of Columbus Avenue as well, that even though we broke ground there, that they determined, I think that there's some issues with that as well.
Yes, the site where there's been conversations that have been ongoing from what I've been told through our staff, John Mueller and the Department of Real Estate, that their conversations have been ongoing to relocate DJJ since at least 2023 and probably before then. There was a site, from what I understand, that was identified. They even, I heard, broke ground, but the problem was there was some issues with that site. So that has been continuing. Now, from what I do also understand is the announcement to move them was not something we were aware of. That just came from the state, but we're working with them to create both a transition plan and to find appropriate places for them to at some point relocate. So we've been working through those issues through our staff.
So it is possible that this is a coincidence of sorts.
It is my understanding this has actually been in the works for a period of time, so.
One that's not necessarily related to the other. Thank you. Excuse me very much. We're talking about TDT and the money that comes from that. And certainly, and Commissioner Whistle has pointed out that earlier that there's going to be bonds that are associated with that. We don't know what those bonds ratings are. Roughly, Ms. Wise, because we know this is your area of expertise, if we were to pull one today, what's the bond market for us? What's the kind of percentages we'll be getting? I've heard you yesterday, it was the worst in possible history that we could possibly get was today during the city meeting. Is that true? Is this the worst time in history?
The worst time in history?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge,
Okay.
no. Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think just as an aside, because I am so proud of our bond ratings, we just, Tom just sent you a memo that we just had our water and sewer bonds upgraded to AAA rating.
Oh.
So the rating on our bonds is really paramount to us, and it is all part of the whole cash management and that we do for all projects.
So, but with the TDT money, which is also referred to kind of a euphemism of bed tax, right? It's a bed tax, heads in beds. We talk about heads in beds. And heads in beds is what comes from visitors. So, and I thought I heard, and maybe I misunderstood, but earlier someone say that that we were bonding the CIT. That's not the case. We're not bonding. That's a pay as we go, and that's the $90 million per year as we are going forward for the next 4 years.
And if we were ever to do something like that, we have so many options. We would never bond on a long-term basis for that purpose. We have our commercial paper program for any kind of short-term needs that we have, which
Right.
we utilize at the county from time to time.
You can leave that on. I'm going to ask you another
Okay.
question. So, and bonding is a very common practice. I mean, so we've bonded we're bonding the one water plant. It's not ad valorem dollars, it's an enterprise fund, but this is a very common practice that we do here and governments do quite often.
It is, because you want to ensure if you're going to bond, you don't want to bond longer than the useful life of your asset.
Right.
And so it's something that we're always looking at.
And
Right, it's just before you asked the question. So we were planning to bond about 30, 35 years, which would not exceed the life of the asset.
Because we
Yes,
earlier determined that
Right.
would be about 50 years perhaps.
we're hoping.
Yes. Okay. Talked about ILAs. Is it possible, what kind of information, I want to go back to Ms. Mandel, and maybe one of the guys over there. What kind of, can different elements be added to the ILA that enhance the developer agreement in a way?
Well, let me just make sure I understand which ILA you'd be talking
Any
about.
ILA.
Any ILA allows you pursuant to statute to put in provisions to manage whatever it is the deal you're trying to structure.
So we could make an ILA agreement that, again, I'll use the word enhance, but not necessarily drop below what this development agreement has. Is that correct? If there's a standard in the development
There's
agreement.
opportunities to have those conversations, but we have to keep in mind that they have to also relate to this agreement, which has provisions on millage. Those can't change. But anything that is something that we could look at different ratios and how we manage ratios, I think that those are something we can discuss.
What constitutes a construction savings? We talked about that earlier. We talked about, Mr. Horadell talked about enhanced savings and value engineering. We hear these terms quite often. But where do those come from? How can we get those? And who gets first dibs on the savings? Does that come to the taxpayers? Or does that come to the team? Or Holdco, Statco, Teamco, whichever co is the one who would get that?
Yes, Commissioner, good question. We have had extensive discussions about how those funds might be apportioned on a savings basis. We believe that there's value in having the public areas come back to the public entities that are funding. So it would really be an analysis of what the stadium construction proportional share might look like. If, for example, just to use a very broad example, if there's a roof that we say could save $300 million, then we would suggest that the savings apportioned to the public side on a percentage basis come back to the public entities, and on the private side, they could realize some of the benefit of that as well. So those are some of the points that we continue to have discussions about, and as we go through the process of approving the design and looking at the construction documents, those are questions that we'll make sure get answered. And we, again, our position is the public entities need to have savings accrue to them based upon the public percentage of the project.
And that would be maybe part of the construction trust agreement, or is that part of something that we don't have in front of us today? So that's kind of why I'm asking this question, because it hasn't really been addressed.
Correct.
Yes, the way this agreement's structured is we will have our monies all separated, city money, county money, Statco money into separate accounts, and that will be both spent and refunded pursuant to that construction trust agreement. The term pari passu, you will see it in here. I just learned a lot about pari passu. Pari passu means that each comes in and then the proportionality, it's sent out, both going towards this project and then coming back at their savings.
Right. I think I had a question about that over the weekend that you addressed.
Yes.
So, okay. And I got a lot of little scribbles over here. And the one thing, where's Tom at? Can you come to the podium, Tom? Mr. Fessler? Again, there was a reference to how the team represented some growth of the CIT, and that we were going to kind of nibble into that so we wouldn't have to really get into what our expectations were. I think we've seen some economic shrinkage already. Our absorption rates are dropping, even going below sub-zero, the zero line. So we see that there's some items that are kind of, it's not happening as quickly as we may thought it will. And those are things that are out of our control. Those are national, GDP, interest rates, mortgage, and all those kind of things. Is there any expected growth at all that we see that even gets close or even over zero on this? I mean, there's got to be some expectation of some type of growth. Have we baked that into any cake?
So, Commissioner, you're talking about
CIT dollars.
CIT dollars, as far as like economic growth.
Yeah. Well, it all kind of folds in together.
Yes.
People, if they don't spend money, we don't get CIT dollars, because it all comes from that, the tax dollars from that, right? The point being is that we've all talked about that at some point, that we can't expect some type of moderate growth or something, and there was this little slush on top of that. It seems that that's going to be evaporating? Or is that still going to be there?
Commissioner, if I'm understanding your question, I think,
We predict things,
CIT
right?
is sales tax.
Yeah, we predict the future a couple years out.
Right. So when we built the CIT, we built it on a 3% growth rate. And we did that to be conservative because on the current CIT that we're in the middle of right now, that is going to be ending at the end of the next couple of months. Over the life of that, over the 30-year life of that, the average growth has been about 4.3% a year. So we built the current one on 3% growth. So we would hope that as we move forward, based on that conservative estimate, that we would have some additional dollars that would show up because the average growth would be somewhat greater than the 3%.
Okay.
Right now, we're in a down cycle, but that's with sales tax, it goes up and down typically more volatilely than, let's say, something like property taxes.
Right. And again, this is only for 15 years, so, I think you've answered the question. Unless, Greg, you're referencing something, Greg, you want to?
We also have additional dollars. Yes, we do expect there to be additional dollars generated for CIT as a result of this project. So again, there are other, as you phrased it, little bits that will come in. We cannot tell you with certainty exactly what those are going to be over the 15 years, but we have an estimate. There will be an increase over what we would ordinarily see.
Yeah, and no one could prognosticate what's going to happen, right? Because we'd all be millionaires if we could. That being the case. So that's all I have for y'all. Thank you. I appreciate it. And you too as well. Thank you very much. Come Friday, we got a document dump. We're on a timeline that we had no control over, I would say, or we actually did have control over it, but we chose to acquiesce and we decided to let things happen as they were. And we are pushed with these documents, and on Friday when I went through and I looked at them and then kind of was a little upset that I think as many people were, not just here at this board, but even at the city of Tampa, and whether you're for or against it, there was a lot. There's a lot to go through. I think you all would admit that. I mean, if you didn't read it, I think that's, that's derelict. But I would assume that we all read it. And what I did is I spent my entire weekend, which, I was elected to do, and I don't work hours 8 to 5, whatever. I work as I needed to do so. And part of that was coming up with a number of questions on things that I had sticking points on. Each one of those questions I sent to Bonnie and to Julia and I kind of went through each one of these things, and I apologize for, mucking up your weekend, but I think that some of those questions is what ended up delaying the document coming out even later, because a lot of those were very detailed, and I think that between me, and they were spread out from Saturday even to Monday, that you were still in negotiations with both the Rays and both with the city on how these would all be integrated and could be make these changes. What came out Tuesday substantially changed the agreement, and I think that we talked about AI earlier. Apparently Ken uses it to look at stats, but I used it as a data tool to look at what the questions I had versus the document, stuck the two together, and about 90% of the things that I asked for were integrated in there. And I want to thank both of you for doing that. I think that it's really speaks to you listening to what I had. And part of this whole process, for anyone that is listening, is that my previous experience in the fire service has taught me that sound decisions begin with a comprehensive assessment of any situation. And then that assessment is then followed up by a reassessment as conditions change. And certainly we've seen these conditions change from January, February, March, all the way to today. And in the fire service, we call that a 360-degree size up. That's how I have evaluated this agreement, and kind of fashioned my arguments on this. For months, I've wanted to know the details in the economics, the protections, and the returns and those that were placed in the documents. We got those Friday. I was not very happy, but we got them. We took some time to look over those. It didn't meet my standard, and I publicly said I was a no. Come Tuesday, I'm thinking, is it Tuesday? I can't even remember. It's been kind of a bit of a whirlwind, but come this week, earlier this week, we have gotten new documents, and I was able to read those. But last week, that was about political theater. It wasn't a negotiation tactic, because I'm not negotiating with them. You are. It was my honest assessment of the proposal as it existed at the time. The county was being asked to assume too much risk without sufficient certainty about private financing, surrounding development, future obligations, and a return to county taxpayers. I raised those questions, and again, you two obviously took care of those. And again, I'm very grateful. And I think the agreement we have before us is certainly better today. I think the private financing requirements have been strengthened. The private parties bear greater responsibility for cost overruns and performance. Enforcement, non-relocation protections have been added. The rental structure now provides a defined revenue stream from $1 to $4 million with a CPI that can replenish county funds committed to the project. However, I do still have concerns. The county is the majority public contributor. While much of the expected return depends on the surrounding development, which is what I look at this as, a real estate deal. This isn't a ballpark deal, and I know that we've talked about, Commissioner Hagan said, this is the catalyst. I agree. I have a 12-year-old daughter. When she was very young, I used to read her this book called The Giving Tree. If anyone has a child, you know what that book is about. You plant a seed, and you let it grow, and it gives back over time, and it does all these things. And in a way, this park is like the Giving Tree. It could be. But it's not really about the park, because when ultimately, while we can make some money, as Commissioner Whistle put forward, that we will be able to get, but the return is not what I think that he expects that the taxpayers would expect as well. But ultimately, it does provide something to us. So as I continue to look at this, we have to think about that the mixed development is not just a side issue, and the development risk remains, but the revised agreement kind of links that public return through that investment process, or not the investment, the tiered appendix that's in the back, and provides stronger protections for the overall exposure. Doesn't guarantee the development, and I was kind of slightly disappointed, but I understand this, and I think that the Rays and certainly their ownership, they're all real estate developers. This is where they're making money. They got a 99-year lease with HCC in the state. They own the pads. They lease the dirt. The pads is where they're going to make the money on, right? And ultimately, that's where we are going to make the money on. So it's not considered the largely unprotected structure that was before Slack-Wheat. And that concern, again, is not new. And in fact, in June, I spoke to Bonnie I proffered a thought experiment with Bonnie in June, because in June, we all saw what was going on with the city of Tampa. City of Tampa dropped the ball with the CRA, in my opinion. They didn't send up the land use agreement, the future land use to the state. And then there was the jockeying with the board on whether or not they would even do anything with the MOU, because again, this is how we should at least approach these things and just listen. So with that, I asked about, well, is there a way that if that didn't prove feasible, could we become the only public funding partner? Which was just one side of that question, though, because I think if you'll recall, I thought that in exchange for that greater responsibility, that we should receive a greater revenue for that, and certainly a greater participation, and create something, a TIF, or assume the CRA, whatever the mechanism would be. And part of that process was kind of moving us already in this direction, and I think that's what kind of moved you, perhaps, to kind of think a little more outside of the box and go, versus they're going to make promises to us versus how do we, stick or carrot. Let's give them a carrot versus a stick. And that's where we kind of landed on. And we've gotten to that point to where our real estate developers, some of them sitting here, and that can now look at that and say, the more we build, the better off it is for everybody. So with that, that's kind of the standard I'd like to continue and had from the very beginning. I think that we need to consider the contribution, the risk, and the return, and make sure they're all reasonably aligned. And in fairness, the revised agreement responds to part of that question. It creates a pathway for the county to retain a portion of the increment generated on the project land, and it's a substantive improvement. Maybe not the best, but it is what it is at this point. That value certainly hasn't been quantified yet. The actual county benefit will depend on development performance, taxable values, and the obligations paid from those revenues. I will continue to say, as I have said privately and somewhat publicly, I am very deeply disappointed still by how the city and the county share of the project site increment is apportioned. The agreement divides that revenue according by their respective millage rates, which you just referred to. And I think that for the more than 2 decades that Hillsborough County has worked to reduce or hold down its millage rate, under this formula, the county's lower millage rate produces a smaller share of that retained increment, while the higher city millage produces a larger. In practical terms, the county's fiscal discipline is being used against us. The city is rewarded for maintaining a higher property tax rate while the county receives less because it's exercised long-term restraint. And that is especially difficult to accept when the county is the majority public contributor and the city is the minority contributor. We're giving 91%. They're giving 9%. Fiscal responsibility should not become a financial disadvantage. A more equitable formula would consider each government's contribution, maybe population, risk and continuing service obligations, not simply its millage rate. The county is making a substantial commitment, and these dollars could support other eligible capital priorities, as has already been said. And we should not minimize that. But we should also not present the public with a false choice. And I think Councilman Vieira referenced that last night, because voting no would not automatically build fire stations. We cannot do that. We cannot do that to future boards, as Commissioner Wissel just pointed out. Doesn't mean we're going to widen roads or fund other projects. Those decisions will require a separate board action. CIT funds can also not pay the recurring cost of firefighters, paramedics, deputies, or daily county services. A fire station is a capital expense. I know we like to throw fire stations around a lot. Nobody in this room knows better how much we are behind in fire stations. I lived it for 28 years. We're making that progress. But staffing it every day requires a dependable recurring revenue. We're already seeing that we have these problems. And at least with the possibility of this development in this area, we could get some of that growth. And some of those monies can come back to the Hillsborough County and the operation counts. And this board is responsible for addressing those both. Supporting the agreement does not relieve this board of its responsibility, any of us sitting up here. We still have a responsibility to our public and certainly to the men and women, the first responders who are out there every day doing the job. Our station deficit, staffing needs, equipment, transportation, and other essential infrastructure needs to be taken care of. If I were evaluating this only on the TIF, my answer would be no. If my responsibility were simply to identify reasons to reject this agreement, I've just listed them for you. But that is not the full responsibility of governing. My responsibility is to weigh the agreement as a whole, including its weaknesses, enforceable protections, potential return, and the consequences of either decision. We have to not only look at the risk-benefit assessment of moving forward, but also consider the consequences of rejecting this agreement before us. It brings in private investment, a new ballpark, surrounding development, and potential creation of a major economic district. It offers an opportunity to expand the future tax base, which wasn't there before the incentive agreement, the TIF, the CDD, all these things. Those weren't in there in the MOU. They're there now. Although the outcomes are not guaranteed, but under the revised agreement, they are no longer based solely just on a handshake and a promise. I think a cautious approach does not require me to remain opposed after agreement has materially changed. Due diligence has meaning only if it were willing to recognize when the scrutiny produces a better result. And I think we have that result before us. I think we've also said this is far from perfect. It's black and white, there's gray here, and we need to find where we can live in the gray. I would say again that the county's return is not as strong as I would like, or that I would accept the TIF apportionment as fair. I do not. It's not a commitment to provide additional county funding later, though. I find that agreeable, and it does not end the need for aggressive public oversight. My remaining concerns weigh heavily against this agreement, but my decision cannot rest on one provision in isolation. When weighed against those stronger financing requirements, the responsibility for overruns, I believe the agreement as a whole has narrowly crossed the threshold for support. I will say this is not an enthusiastic yes. It's a cautious and accountable yes, made with my eyes fully open to both the opportunity and the risk. The agreement changed, protections improved, the remaining risks are now more defined and manageable. And so for those reasons, I will vote yes, but I have an amendment to make to the motion. Is an amendment in order?
Go ahead.
Can you restate the motion that was made earlier specifically for, I caught you off guard, didn't I? Come on, Allison. The motion and the portion that relates to the CBA.
I will need a minute to get that information for you.
I can say it, if that'll help.
You have, fine. Would you mind restating that motion, please, sir?
All right, I'll just say the whole thing. It's quick. It's motion to approve the development funding agreement, the guarantee, and the team non-relocation agreement in substantial forms presented, and allow the county attorney to conform all the documents, including the City of Tampa approved documents, and correct any scrivener's errors. Additionally, for the community benefits agreement, there'll be no less than $50 million split between the county receiving 65%, city 35%, with an expectation of a timing mechanism where investments in meaningful community benefits begin immediately and are not backloaded. So that was.
Did you just add that little last part there, maybe? No. I don't remember that. Anyway,
yeah, I got it written down.
No. Well, okay, very good. Well, to that extent, I'm going to make it a little more concise. And to make a meaningful change, because I'm still a little upset about the disproportionate share, I'd like to raise that to 60 million, with us getting the 65%, which would provide $39 million to Hillsborough County, 35% to the City of Tampa, which would be 21 million. 20% of that total commitment, or 12 million, shall be from the loaded, or shall be front-loaded and paid in 4 equal annual installments at $3 million during the first 4 years, allocated annually as $1.95 million to the county and $1.05 million to the city. The remaining $48 million shall be funded pursuant to a binding payment and performance schedule to be determined through the outstanding CBA. That's my substitute or my amended motion.
I'm just going to say, I need clarification if that's a substitute motion or an amendment.
It's an amendment. It's an amendment to the amounts and the times.
Chair Hagan, you accept the amendment?
Absolutely. I do want to ask Julia her thoughts.
The way you wrote that and in line with how you had your original motion, it would be that the agreement would have a total cap, and then the other pieces of that will be embedded in the CBA to come forward to you. So it's a little bit parsed out by just what's in this agreement, and that's the way I understood it. And then what you would request that I put into a CBA that I bring back to you on the timing mechanism.
And I understood the 60 million, and then did you say the first 20% was over 5 years?
4 years.
Oh, 4 years.
Correct. Yours is written, mine's typed.
I can't read my own handwriting.
So you accept the amendments, Chair?
Sure.
May I speak just for a moment?
Yes.
Yesterday, the city of Tampa provided us, I'm going to use it as a ceiling of $75 million from Councilwoman Hurtak. I thought that was a bit much. Looking at other agreements around the country, Kansas City Royals and some of these other places that you have out there, those numbers fall, I think, within that line of 50 to 70, 65 million. I think, though, that for the pain and suffering that we've had to go through with the expedited schedule and the amount of money that we're not receiving through our fiscal stewardship of our dollars should at least equate to some kind of benefit for our community, that we're seeing people out here that are going to see a direct benefit from the raise, because it's still going to be 3 to 4 years, 5 years before we're going to get any benefit from that. The raise have a great opportunity to go out there through our CBAs, go out in the community and show them what they're doing today after this is done, whether that's through Little League fields, whether that's through different agreements, whatever those may be. Can't recall how many are in there. It's 9 pages of ideas, but this is an opportunity for them to do that out on the front side. So for that, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. That was going to be my next question. Are you still on the second? It is my pleasure to get to call this vote. Please record your votes.
Motion carries 5-2. Commissioners Cameron Cepeda and Woolston voted no.
Okay. Before we adjourned, I want to first of all thank all the board members for all of your hard work, for today's robust discussion, and for approving this generational development. Commissioner Myers, my apologies. I didn't say it earlier, but a change is going to come. I also want to thank everyone who came down today, and really everyone who participated throughout this process over the last several months. Most of all, though, I want to thank the person who was responsible for me being in this seat and responsible for my love of baseball. His name is also Ken Hagan. He's my dad. Dad, we did it. We're adjourned.